One day, a large beam of fire landed from the sky on Earth, bringing a disaster. Different dragons and monsters hover around the world, and by this the world ended. The story begins in Yangchuan City at Huameng. Our main character finds himself hanging, attempting to end his life. As he starts to lose consciousness, fragments of his memories flash before him, memories of fighting soldiers and being commanded to kill everyone, even innocent individuals. The corpses of the fallen soldiers lie strewn about, reminiscent of a battlefield. Among the chaos, only a woman and her baby remain. The main character, crying tears of blood, regains his consciousness. Coughing, he gathers his strength and pushes with his legs against the roof, hoping to break the rope. Desperate to end his life, he even resorts to taking drugs, but they seem to have no effect on him. He bitterly reflects on the futility of his existence, realizing that even if he wants to die, he is unable to. The scene then shifts to breaking news in 20 City that morning, reporting the discovery of strange creatures roaming the streets. A massive fire breaks out, plunging the city into complete chaos. The citizens panic, while the police scramble to determine the cause of this alarming event. The government assures the public that they are committed to protecting lives and property, urging citizens to find refuge as quickly as possible. Our main character, intending to buy a bottle of water, visits a store where he witnesses people pleading for help and fleeing from the monstrous creatures. The creatures attack, devouring the helpless victims. The main character initially wonders if these nightmarish beings are mere hallucinations resulting from the drugs he took the previous day. However, he soon realizes the grim reality when one of the creatures lunges at him. Swiftly evading the attack, he retaliates with a powerful kick. After kicking the creature, the main character recalls that he did not consume any drugs the previous day. Instead, he had attempted suicide by hanging himself. The monsters launch a coordinated assault, but he quickly strategizes, throwing a bottle of water to divert their attention and striking the creatures from behind. When one tries to surprise him with an attack from the side, the main character anticipates the move and evades it. He seizes the creature's arms and turns its own limbs against it. Eventually, he triumphs over all the monsters. Stepping over their defeated forms, he unsheathes his knife, contemplating how he had pondered various ways to end his life for a long time but didn't want to die in a wretched place like the store. Using the knife, he dispatched all the monsters that came at him, eliminating every single one of them. Surveying the wreckage left behind, the store now in ruins. Meanwhile, in the same store, a young man found himself engaged in a fierce battle against menacing monsters. Armed with a baseball bat, he swung it with all his might to defend himself. In the midst of the fight, memories flooded his mind, recalling how he ended up in this perilous situation. It all started when he decided to skip practice with his coach, Shixuan Go. Unfortunately, his plans were foiled when he discovered that Coach Go had left early due to illness. Initially enraged by the news, his anger soon dissipated, and he casually remarked that he would take a long break and indulge himself before heading to the internet cafe. Intent on acquiring some snacks, he found himself in this particular store, facing off against the relentless monsters. Despite his valiant efforts, the creatures managed to push him back, closing in for the kill. However, just as they lunged at him with murderous intent, an unexpected intervention occurred. Out of nowhere, a frying pan came hurtling through the air, intercepting the monster's attack and saving the young man's life. To his astonishment, the one who had come to his aid was a skilled individual, possessing lightning-fast reflexes. With a screwdriver in hand, this mysterious savior swiftly dispatched the three monsters without giving them a chance to retaliate. Completing the defeat of the third creature, the savior quickly dashed towards the remaining two, disposing of them effortlessly. Turning towards the young man, he made it clear that if he wanted to survive, he must follow his lead and obey his every command. Surprised but realizing he had no other choice in this dire situation, the young man reluctantly accepted. Alerted by a thunderous roar coming from the adjacent side of the shop, he turned his attention towards the sound. The main character abruptly sprinted off to investigate, prompting the young man to grab his baseball bat and follow closely behind. Arriving at a sports equipment area, they witnessed a terrifying sight. A powerful, muscular monster held a human's hand, ruthlessly slaughtering anyone in its path. A woman clutching her child was the monster's next target, but a brave kid stood up, defending her with a racket in hand. Taking the young man's baseball bat, the main character rushed forward to save the child. Despite the monster shattering the racket, the main character managed to strike its face twice, though with little effect. He commented on the immense force he felt, as if he were swinging the bat into a solid boulder. The monster retaliated, crushing the bat and launching a counterattack. Through swift evasion, the main character narrowly dodged its strikes. Seizing the opportunity, he grabbed the lower portion of the shattered racket and skillfully pierced the monster's eye with it. As he moved to finish off the creature, it let out a deafening roar, freezing everyone in their tracks. The monster focused its assault on the main character, rendering him immobile. Determined to break free, the main character screamed, forcing his body to move and managing to block the monster's attack with the remains of the bat. Despite his efforts, the force of the blow sent him hurtling through the air, leaving him momentarily incapacitated. Now, the monster's attention shifted to the young man. Faced with imminent danger, he lamented his decision to skip practice, realizing the dire consequences it had brought upon him. The desperate cries of the woman pleading for the safety of her child filled the air. In a miraculous turn of events, the young man managed to break free from the immobilizing effect imposed by the monster. Suddenly, a peculiar aura manifested on his hand, pulsating with a surge of energy. Sensing the newfound power coursing through his body, he confidently reached for the bat, convinced that he could now vanquish the monster in his current state. Without hesitation, the main character, known as Tae Hoon, leaped at the monster's neck, swiftly wrapping a thin wire around it and commencing a suffocating throttle. The monster, helpless under the tight grip, was unable to retaliate. Tae Hoon signaled to the young man, Hyun-wook, to deliver the final blow. Drawing strength from the aura emanating from his hand, Hyun-wook unleashed a devastating attack, ultimately slaying the beast. Tae Hoon and Hyun-wook endured another grueling 7 hours of battling monsters, had successfully saved the lives of numerous people. The store lay in ruins, a testament to the havoc that had unfolded within its walls. Those who had survived, and those who had perished. The passage of time during those arduous hours felt akin to 10 long years. Contemplating the magnitude of the situation, Hyun-wook remarked that all the trivial problems he had encountered in the past paled in comparison to the horrors they had just faced. Tae Hoon, the indomitable hero, and Hyun-wook, the grateful survivor, shared a complicated bond. Despite their improved relationship, Hyun-wook still found it challenging to truly connect with Tae Hoon. He harbored an insatiable curiosity about Tae Hoon's background and origins. Reflecting on their current circumstances, Hyun-wook observed that approximately 100 survivors remained amidst a staggering number of lifeless bodies. Without Tae Hoon's intervention, the death toll would have been unimaginable. Tae Hoon fearlessly led the evacuation efforts and fearlessly battled the monsters. There was an unwavering certainty in his eyes, as if he had grown accustomed to a life where such challenges were commonplace. Hyun-wook found the absurdity of his current situation and surroundings difficult to comprehend. Suddenly, a peculiar pattern materialized on Tae Hoon's hand. Piquing his curiosity, Tae Hoon instructed Hyun-wook to remove his gloves, and to their astonishment, the same mysterious pattern adorned Hyun-wook's hand as well. Both of them had become awakenas, special beings with powers beyond ordinary humans. Understanding the current circumstances proved challenging, as limited data existed. Only a small percentage, around 4 to 5% of the human population, had the ability to awaken their latent abilities. To ensure efficient communication in their current situation, Tae Hoon instructed Hyun-wook to assign simple names to any unfamiliar objects or phenomena they encountered. Recognizing the importance of rapid information exchange, Hyun-wook examined the baseball bat he held, speculating that it might be linked to his sudden acquisition of powers. Surprisingly, he quickly adapted to the newfound strength, even contemplating his potential success in the major leagues. What astonished him even more was the ability to observe both awakeners and monsters' abilities through their phones. Hyun-wook mused whether he had somehow entered a game world after spending countless hours in internet cafes. Following Tae Hoon's orders, Hyun-wook assisted in moving the monster corpses to the butcher's shop within the mall. Uncertain of Tae Hoon's intentions with the corpses, Hyun-wook noticed the bloodstains on his clothes, hinting at a possible answer. Tae Hoon wielded a knife, a small axe, and a cleaver, employing his skill to manipulate and control objects. He proceeded to share all the information he had gathered with the remaining survivors. Although nervous, they had no choice but to place their trust in the enigmatic figure before them. Without Tae Hoon's intervention, most of them would have succumbed to the monster's attacks. In fact, Tae Hoon recently taught a lesson to 3 troublemakers, further solidifying his reputation and gaining more trust from the people. Truth be told, even without his powers, Tae Hoon could have easily subdued the 3 troublemakers. The time now stood at 10:33 p.m. As the survivors gathered, Tae Hoon announced his intention to explain the current situation. Suddenly, a woman approached Tae Hoon and Hyun-wook, revealing herself to be another awakener. Curious about the report Tae Hoon was sharing and the pattern on her own palm, she sought answers. Hyun-wook recognized her as the courageous lady who had confronted the troublemakers earlier. Tae Hoon responded, asserting that survival in this chaotic world necessitated selfishness. However, he had already divulged all his knowledge about the pattern, considering secrecy pointless. He added that the survivors could repay him by providing the magical orbs found within the monsters. Unfamiliar with the term magical orbs, the woman sought clarification. Hyun-wook explained that he had coined the term for easier communication. Magical orbs referred to a type of stone discovered within the monsters' bodies. According to Tae Hoon, everyone could view their own abilities, special powers, and the monsters' stats on their phones. By consuming these magical orbs, individuals could enhance their own abilities. Tae Hoon addressed the woman, informing her that they could not remain in their current location for much longer. Perplexed, she questioned his reasoning, citing the ample food supply and functioning power system, and expressing hope that rescue teams would arrive soon. Tae Hoon countered, stating that their current shelter was only temporary due to safety concerns. He expressed doubt about the likelihood of any rescue teams arriving, as he believed the outside world to be equally perilous. Puzzled, the woman asked how he could make such claims about the external environment when he had only explored the underground of the mall. In response, Tae Hoon proposed relocating to a nearby railway station as a temporary solution. He explained that the creatures they had encountered could suddenly appear anywhere, including the mall's entrance. If the creatures had managed to infiltrate the premises, it was imperative to leave immediately. The woman grew frustrated, shouting that everyone was exhausted, particularly the elderly and patients among them. Just as tensions escalated, Tae Hoon sensed a nearby presence and warned everyone to keep away from the entrance. Suddenly, the entrance was obliterated, and a formidable monster emerged. The creature attacked multiple individuals with great aggression. Utilizing his skill, Tae Hoon seized control of the monster, pushing it back. He noted that the monster's timely arrival provided him with an opportunity to test his newfound ability. Tae Hoon utilized his skill, forcefully immobilizing the monster. However, the monster persisted, pushing through despite his efforts. Observing the monster's extraordinary nature, Tae Hoon thought breaking its neck would be easy with his acquired steel-bending strength. Yet, Tae Hoon reached his limit and urgently instructed Hyun-wook to evacuate everyone from the scene. Suddenly, the monster broke free from Tae Hoon's grasp and launched an attack on him. Responding swiftly, Hyun-wook intervened by striking the monster directly in its vulnerable area with a barbell. Unfortunately, the attack proved futile, and the monster retaliated, sending Hyun-wook flying through the air, inflicting significant damage. Tae Hoon's energy rapidly depleted, but as the monster charged towards him, he skillfully evaded its attack by dashing towards the roof using his skill. The force of the monster's charge effortlessly demolished 3 layers of walls. Seizing the opportunity, Tae Hoon grabbed a gas canister and hurled it at the monster. He swiftly followed up by igniting a lighter, resulting in a massive explosion engulfing the monster. The onlookers were filled with terror. Tae Hoon quickly rushed to Hyun-wook, concerned for his well-being. In response to Tae Hoon's inquiry, Hyun-wook expressed his pain, while the woman worried about his broken ribs puncturing his lungs. Fortunately, that did not occur. Tae Hoon acknowledged that Hyun-wook sustained severe injuries but recovered quickly. Understanding the reason behind his swift recovery after the previous battle, Tae Hoon concluded that it was due to his fast healing. Realizing the perilous nature of their surroundings, Tae Hoon instructed Hyun-wook to evacuate everyone and asked the woman on Sunmai if she knew how to drive. He instructed them to find a large car and wait while he dealt with the monster. The people began their escape, while Tae Hoon prepared for the impending battle. During their escape, they were assaulted by small monsters, but Hyun-wook swiftly intervened, eliminating the creatures. Finally, they reached the exit, while Tae Hoon continued his battle with the monster. Tae Hoon tried every sharp weapon within his reach, yet none proved effective. The monster charged at Tae Hoon once again. Meanwhile, outside the store, the people had gathered, witnessing the chaotic scene unfolding before them. Shocked and filled with despair, they believed their fate was sealed. Amidst the chaos, Sunmai spotted a bus nearby. Without hesitation, she and Hyun-wook dashed towards it. Suddenly, Tae Hoon and the monster burst through the store's window, crashing onto a car below. The impact demolished the vehicle, and the monster shoved Tae Hoon away. It was evident that the monster was formidable. Tae Hoon urgently urged Hyun-wook and Sunmai to stop standing there and run. He quickly grabbed a yield sign, intending to use it as a weapon. As Hyun-wook and Sunmai reached the bus, Hyun-wook asked Sunmai if she knew how to drive it. Sunmai confessed that she couldn't, but she believed it was similar to driving a car. However, they needed the key to start the bus. Fortunately, Sunmai found it just in time. Meanwhile, Tae Hoon showcased his impressive agility by evading and counterattacking the monster. The onlookers were amazed by his skills. Despite his efforts, the monster managed to snatch the yield sign from Tae Hoon's grasp. Without wasting a moment, the monster hurled the sign towards Tae Hoon, but he skillfully dodged it. Suddenly, Hyun-wook and Sunmai, with Sunmai at the wheel, drove the bus directly at the monster and Tae Hoon. Reacting swiftly, Tae Hoon leaped out of harm's way, while the monster collided with the bus. Sunmai applied maximum acceleration, causing the bus to halt abruptly. Seizing the opportunity, Tae Hoon utilized his skills to break the monster's neck. Overwhelmed by the force and the bus's speed, the monster succumbed, and Sunmai propelled it through a nearby wall. Finally, Tae Hoon felt a sense of relief. Sporting an eerie smile, he mused about his triumph over his near-death experience and pondered if he had previously attempted suicide. Meanwhile, inside the bus, Hyun-wook checked on Sunmai, ensuring she was unharmed. Sunmai playfully remarked that it was the second time he had almost killed her and jokingly told him to get off her. Once they exited the bus, they witnessed Tae Hoon brandishing a cleaver near the defeated monster's corpse. Sunmai observed his actions, realizing that her perspective on the world had been skewed, and Tae Hoon's behavior served as a wake-up call. She had an overwhelming urge to scream but refrained from doing so, considering the bizarre circumstances. Tae Hoon seized the magical orb and swallowed it. Sunmai acknowledged that she would soon discover his motive but dared not utter a single word in this surreal situation. As an intern doctor for 3 years, she had encountered numerous corpses. The stench of death emanating from the scene already hinted that Tae Hoon was akin to a devil arising from the sea of corpses. After the intense battle had concluded, Hyun-wook retrieved his phone and examined Tae Hoon and Sun Mai's statuses. He discovered that Tae Hoon had significantly risen in rank, showcasing impressive progress, while Sun Mai possessed formidable abilities. Tae Hoon began preparing essential items for their next move. He gathered gloves, a cap, non-reflective dark clothes, and high-calorie, long-lasting food. The rest of the group commenced packing their belongings. Once the preparations were complete, they headed towards the town hall. Fortunately, no monsters were present there, prompting a collective sigh of relief. However, Tae Hoon suggested that they should continue moving, this time only allowing those who had awakened their abilities to accompany him. Although he didn't force anyone, most individuals refused to join, focusing solely on their own survival. Yet, a few people expressed gratitude towards Tae Hoon and hoped that he would remain with them to face the ongoing disaster. Despite their pleas, Tae Hoon departed silently, followed by Sun Mai and Hyun-wook. Sun Mai remarked that she didn't perceive him as cold-hearted because the town hall contained ample supplies of food, medicine, and weapons. Before leaving, they utilized cars and fireproof doors to fortify the defense perimeter around the town hall. Additionally, they discovered a pathway leading to the train. Although uncertain about the situation outside, they recognized the inherent danger. Staying and awaiting reinforcements would only result in a massacre if they brought everyone along in such perilous circumstances. And so, their journey continued. Tae Hoon instructed the group to head towards the military base, with plans to collect weapons from the police station along the way. He assumed the lead position, emphasizing the importance of Hyun-wook keeping a vigilant watch behind them and remaining aware of their surroundings. Any small mistake could cost them their lives, so they had to maintain a high level of alertness until they reached their destination. Upon arriving at the police station, they discovered all the police officers dead. Tae Hoon examined one of the corpses and informed the group that they had been deceased for approximately 6 to 7 hours. There were no remaining bullets to be found. Tae Hoon instructed Hyun-wook to remove the bodies and barricade the doors and windows while he searched for the armory. Meanwhile, Sun Mai sensed something unusual in a bag on the ground. She opened it and was shocked to find a strange cup that evoked a peculiar sensation within her. Tae Hoon approached her as she acted strangely. She apologized and urged him to take a closer look at the cup. Hyun-wook commented that it was merely an old, broken cup, but Sun Mai insisted there was something peculiar about it. When she handed her phone to Tae Hoon, it indicated that the cup was a level 7 holy grail capable of using mana points to create healing holy water. Hyun-wook couldn't contain his excitement, but quickly realized the danger of attracting monsters with his loud outbursts. He apologized for his carelessness. Sun Mai took the cup and began utilizing her mana points to create holy water. However, she grew exhausted as she had used a significant amount of mana. Sun Mai applied a few drops of the water to Tae Hoon's wound, and it immediately started to heal. Hyun-wook exclaimed that Sun Mai appeared to be the healer they needed. Tae Hoon remarked that although the risk was substantial, the reward wasn't so bad. He then informed them that they would need to visit the museum after their stop at the military base. From his jacket, Tae Hoon retrieved 2 Smith & Wesson Model 60 guns with 5 bullets in the chambers. He instructed them to aim for the head and chest if possible. Hyun-wook and Sun Mai took the guns, but Tae Hoon reminded them they couldn't practice at the moment and would have to wait. Suddenly, a powerful presence approached. Its mere existence weakened Hyun-wook and Sun Mai, overwhelming them. Tae Hoon went outside to investigate the source of the presence and witnessed a giant dragon flying overhead. He commented on the dragon's intimidating nature, pondering how they were supposed to defeat such a creature. Tae Hoon returned to the station to find Hyun-wook and Sun Mai on the ground, coughing and struggling. Hyun-wook assured Tae Hoon that he was fine and urged him to check on Sun Mai, who had lost consciousness. Tae Hoon immediately performed artificial respiration on her and applied pressure to her heart. Her heart was beating, but she wasn't breathing. It was then that Tae Hoon noticed the Holy Grail. He took it and gave it to her, and she regained consciousness instantly. It became evident that the holy water possessed a potent healing effect. Tae Hoon decided it was time to rest before proceeding further. As the clock ticked away, Tae Hoon kept watch over them, refusing to sleep. The following morning, the team resumed their journey towards the military base, eliminating any monsters they encountered along the way. Hyun-wook couldn't help but be impressed by Tae Hoon's remarkable growth and strength. After dispatching all the monsters, Tae Hoon used an axe to cut through the corpses, searching for magical orbs. Sun Mai suggested he use his telekinesis ability instead to avoid attracting more monsters. Tae Hoon explained that since they hadn't mastered control over their powers, using them would put them at a disadvantage. Furthermore, if there were higher-class monsters in the vicinity, their presence would deter such creatures. He then gave Hyun-wook and Sun Mai each a magical orb to consume, instructing them to leave immediately after eating. Sun Mai remarked that they should reach their destination in half an hour, but Tae Hoon seemed intent on deliberately seeking out the monsters. He believed that by hunting weaker monsters first, they would gradually build up their strength and increase their chances of success. Meanwhile, at the military base, soldiers engaged in a fierce battle against multiple monsters, following the orders of their female commander to hold the defense. A large mud monster emerged before them, impervious to the bullets fired by the soldiers. The commander ordered them to use grenades, but the monster continued to regenerate its flesh, rendering the explosives ineffective. Enraged, the mud monster broke through their defense line and began mercilessly killing the soldiers. Seizing the opportunity, other monsters joined the onslaught. The remaining soldiers retreated to the next defensive position, but the mud monster attacked the commander. She narrowly dodged its strike and prepared to shoot, only to be interrupted by another monster pouncing on her. She swiftly defended herself by using her gun to injure the attacking creature. The mud monster lunged at her, but she was mere inches away from death when Tae Hoon and the others arrived. Utilizing his skill, Tae Hoon froze the mud monster, leaving the soldiers astounded by his instantaneous defeat of the monsters in their rear. The commander inquired about Tae Hoon's identity, to which he curtly replied that she should leave if she wanted to survive. Hyun-wook engaged the mud monster with a bat, striking it multiple times. The commander was impressed by Hyun-wook's overpowering strength, realizing that he could rival guns in terms of killing power. Despite the barrage of hits, the mud monster began regenerating once more. Tae Hoon signaled Hyun-wook to move away, and he swiftly grabbed the commander, making a run for it. As the mud monster regenerated, Tae Hoon seized a gas canister and hurled it towards the creature, igniting it with a lit lighter using his skill. The resulting explosion engulfed the mud monster in flames. Sun Mai noted that fire causes dirt to harden. Tae Hoon then utilized his new skill, enveloping his hand in black skin, and delivered a single powerful punch to the monster, defeating it. Everyone present stood in awe of Tae Hoon's incredible power. After defeating the monster, Tae Hoon consumed the magical orb, strengthening himself further. The commander began reflecting on the sudden appearance of these monsters the previous afternoon. The officers who had settled in the status quo were massacred instantly. Communication was disrupted, and her group was destroyed. The fear of the enemy had caused the soldiers to lose their resolve. Through great effort, she managed to gather the remaining troops and hold the defensive line. However, witnessing her comrades slowly perish one by one, she gradually felt powerless. At that moment, Tae Hoon approached the commander. He inquired if she was the commander, and she confirmed it. Tae Hoon instructed her to immediately restock the necessary weapons and commence the clearance of the remaining enemies. He pointed out that there were 33 soldiers still alive, but less than 10 of them had combat strength. While talking, Tae Hoon prepared his equipment and armed himself with a gun. He then ordered Sun Mai to go and heal the wounded soldiers. The remaining individuals, including Hyun-wook, were assigned to guard the larger group of troops. Lastly, Tae Hoon would handle the remaining monsters. He requested that the commander, identified as the lieutenant, take cover behind him. The commander hesitated, stating that they didn't know who Tae Hoon was. In response, Tae Hoon informed her that the monsters seemed to be more organized than before, suggesting the presence of a commander among them. He emphasized the need to eliminate them at their source, as they would regrow otherwise. Time was of the essence, and he urged her to prepare quickly, assuring her that introductions could be made later. Tae Hoon, accompanied by the soldiers and the commander, charged at the monsters. The commander realized they had no means of counterattacking. Tae Hoon displayed impressive marksmanship, accurately shooting down the monsters. Suddenly, 2 monsters attacked from behind, but Tae Hoon swiftly kicked them and finished them off with his firearm. As he and the commander advanced, she marveled at Tae Hoon's precise shooting skills and pondered who he truly was. Then, a sudden impact occurred, and Tae Hoon immediately covered the commander, shielding her. It was the leader of the monsters, a wizard-like creature. Tae Hoon remarked, "Found it," while the commander couldn't shake off the overwhelming sense of oppression, noting that it resembled the mud monster they had encountered before. Without hesitation, Tae Hoon swiftly dashed towards the wizard monster, urging the commander to support him. The wizard monster commanded the other monsters to block Tae Hoon's path. Tae Hoon drew his dagger and swiftly dispatched the monster obstructing him. Meanwhile, the commander opened fire on the wizard monster. However, the wizard raised his staff, conjuring a magic shield that blocked the bullets. Not only that, but he also raised his hand, reflecting the bullets back towards Tae Hoon. Reacting swiftly, Tae Hoon dodged the incoming bullets. He then utilized his skill to throw the dagger at the wizard monster. The dagger's speed managed to break through the wizard's shield and destroyed his staff, ultimately leading to the defeat of the wizard monster. With everything settled, the commander contemplated the situation. As Tae Hoon had predicted, the tide had turned. All the enemies within the barracks had been annihilated, and they had successfully recaptured the lost front line. The progress was rapid. Sun Mai utilized her mysterious power to treat the wounded, while Hyun-wook assisted in restocking the equipment from the arsenal. Tae Hoon sat alone, enjoying a drink. The commander approached him silently, and Tae Hoon broke the silence by addressing her as Kim Soo-jae. He urged her to ask any questions she had, as such opportunities may not arise again. Kim Soo-jae expressed her gratitude once more and inquired how he knew her name. Tae Hoon asked if Brigadier General Kim Yi-rong, the former commander of the capital military region, was her grandfather. He mentioned meeting him along with Major General Jang Young-sun in the Army General Military Region 5 years ago, when Kim Soo-jae was also present. Fragments of her memories flashed through her mind, recalling Tae Hoon with General Kim Yi-rong, who mentioned meeting again in the future when Kim Soo-jae would be enlisted. However, her grandfather warned her not to seek any information about them or interact with them in the army, as they were a group without affiliation or rank, akin to hungry wolves on the battlefield. Now certain that Tae Hoon had been a soldier, Kim Soo-jae added that even the commander of the military area was taboo within the special department. Tae Hoon mentioned that she must have already heard this from the brigadier general. He approached her closely and suggested gathering all the soldiers to strike a deal. Kim Soo gathered the soldiers as Tae Hoon announced his intention to establish an organization. Tae Hoon presented them with a choice. They could join him or remain at the military camp, continuing to oversee its operations. Tae Hoon emphasized that they should not assume help would come from the capital, as the disaster had affected the entire country. It was likely that other areas faced similar circumstances, with communication disrupted and the military struggling to control the situation. Tae Hoon asserted that it was now up to the soldiers to decide whether or not to believe and act on this reality. Kim Soo contemplated the situation, realizing that everyone had already anticipated this outcome. They simply hadn't wanted to confront the harsh reality and instead sought to adapt quickly to the new world. She then asked Tae Hoon about the benefits of joining his organization. In response, Tae Hoon utilized his skill to crush a coffee can. He explained that by joining, they would gain access to all the information he possessed, increasing their chances of survival in this chaotic world. And so, the soldiers joined Tae Hoon, embarking on their journey in a truck. Kim Soo began reflecting on the teachings they received from Tae Hoon's team. It was incredible how quickly they absorbed the information he provided. Although they needed much more information, the immediate problem at hand was already overwhelming. Hyun-wook acknowledged that it might be difficult for everyone to believe, but it was the truth. All the names of the monsters and equipment came from Hyun-wook. In normal times, Kim Soo would have considered putting Hyun-wook in a psychiatric hospital. However, based on her recent experiences, she found herself believing in him. The sudden appearance of monsters also led to the discovery of human awakeners within their ranks, including Tae Hoon, Sun Mai, Kim Soo, and 2 others in the army. As long as there is a pattern, it means that you have awakened, although at first it is no different from ordinary people. However, by killing monsters and ingesting their magic crystals, the attribute values and characteristics of the awakeners could be enhanced. Different levels of monsters possessed varying abilities, identifiable by their pupil colors. By absorbing the magic crystals, the awakeners could improve their attributes and confirm these changes using a phone. Among the various magic crystals, there were goblin magic crystals, which provided a small increase in basic attribute values upon consumption. Black orc magic crystals increased strength, body, and pneumatic strength proficiency. They also enhanced physical defense. Black skin magic crystals consume pneumatic strength, resulting in increased physical defense and unlocking the ability of black skin, as demonstrated by Tae Hoon in his latest fight with the mud monster. Mud beast magic crystals increased strength, physical defense, and had the added effect of consuming pneumatic strength to accelerate regeneration. Lastly, goblin shaman magic crystals increased magic proficiency and magic control proficiency. They also unlocked the ability of ancestor vision, which allowed control over powerful monsters and provided early warnings. Tae Hoon had consumed numerous magic crystals, including advanced monster magic crystals. His companions had also ingested many of these crystals. They even convinced another awakener and Kim Soo to consume them. No one uttered a word of complaint. Instead, they recognized the potential benefits. In fact, the bodies of the monsters could be utilized to provide significant aid after ingestion. Sun Mai managed to create pills using the horn of the goblin shaman, the meat of the mud beast, and the holy grail. These pills possessed various effects, such as quick healing and regeneration from the mud beast's meat, as well as the mysterious power of the goblin shaman's horn. The pills resulted in small increases in fear resistance, regenerative ability, concentration during battle, pain resistance, and quick strength consumption. A professionally trained team could even face 100 goblins. However, when high-level monsters were present in the monster group, their roars and oppressive presence affected the awakening process. Overcoming this required a higher level of energy to resist fear or recover swiftly. Tae Hoon instructed Kim Soo that if they encountered a monster group with advanced monsters, she must distribute these pills to the soldiers. He also told her to provide Hyun-wook and Sun Mai with military uniforms and body armor and to teach them shooting skills later. Tae Hoon explained that military uniforms were specially designed for the battlefield, offering protection from being easily targeted by monsters. He emphasized the importance of utilizing their abilities and clarified that the pistols were to be used solely to save lives, as poor shooting skills would only hinder the team. So Hyun-wook and Sun Mai found themselves wearing military uniforms. Hyun-wook couldn't help but comment on the situation, saying, "Who would have thought I could put on the military uniform that I've always dreamt of in this situation?" He then turned to Tae Hoon and asked if he wanted him to come up with the organization's name since it seemed like a very important matter. Tae Hoon replied that since he had already volunteered, he could make the decision. Hyun-wook revealed that he had actually thought about it a long time ago and suggested the names Dao and Guang, as they represented the path and light. Suddenly, a young soldier appeared and proposed the name Mac for the organization. Kim Soo recognized him as part of the three-man team. The young soldier introduced himself as Chang Sun-hoon and explained that Mac was a mythical beast that devoured nightmares. Sung-hoon, although not an awakener, offered to assist Tae Hoon. He continued to listen intently to what Tae Hoon had just said, realizing that the value of those antiques was comparable to cutting-edge weapons. Sung-hoon then asked Tae Hoon if he could call him boss. He suggested that their next destination should be a museum, specifically the Archery Museum, which happened to be the nearest one. Tae Hoon complimented Sung-hoon, saying his foresight was impressive and suggesting that he probably wasn't a policeman. He then asked Sung-hoon about his previous occupation. Sung-hoon replied that he was an expert in counterfeiting art, selling, and smuggling. Tae Hoon picked up his bag and informed everyone that they would be leaving in half an hour, instructing them to be on standby. Hyun-wook praised Sung-hoon, remarking on how cool he was, and asked him to take care of them in the future. Hyun-wook felt suffocated by everyone's seriousness during this time. Sung-hoon reflected on Tae Hoon's demeanor, thinking that he probably wasn't someone who easily trusted others. He wondered if Tae Hoon even saw him as a valuable asset. Despite his fame in the circle, Sung-hoon found Tae Hoon's gaze scarier than the monsters they had encountered before, and with that, the report concluded. Returning to the present actions, Sun-mai and Hyun-wook discussed the military uniforms and felt a strong sense of kinship. Sun-mai questioned if they had known each other for a long time. Hyun-wook praised Tae Hoon for his brilliant plan and the safety provided by the car, which made them less afraid of smaller monsters. Hyun-wook expressed his curiosity about Tae Hoon's profession, prompting him to ask if the two sisters wanted to go home. He shared his initial worries for his family but expressed relief at the current situation. However, he also feared that consuming magic crystals might eventually turn him into a monster. Suddenly, a fire broke out on their path. The soldiers inquired about the cause, and Hyun-wook stated that it was a fire. Kim Soo questioned if it could have been intentionally set by someone since the location was unlikely to catch fire naturally. Sung-hoon speculated that in cold weather, a fire indicated a problem and mentioned that people often face secondary disasters, such as fires, after being trapped under collapsed buildings. The group decided to stop and investigate the fire. Tae Hoon stepped out of the truck and instructed everyone to take the pills and prepare for battle. He assigned tasks to each member. Chang Sun was to drive and secure a retreat path. Kim Soo was to take cover. Sun-mai was to be ready to heal the injured. And Hyun-wook was to follow Tae Hoon and engage in the attack. Soon, small skeletal wolves appeared, and Tae Hoon ordered Hyun-wook to eliminate the monsters approaching the vehicle, assuring him that he could handle it for 3 minutes without any problems. Tae Hoon focused on dealing with a larger, more advanced monster called the skeletal wolf. He readied his gun, prepared for the fight ahead. In the midst of the chaotic battle, the soldiers engaged in combat with the small skeletal wolves, swiftly dispatching them. Hyun-wook, determined to keep the wolves at bay, skillfully prevented any from getting close. Meanwhile, Tae Hoon focused his attention on the enormous monster, taking aim and firing his weapon. However, despite his accuracy, the monster displayed remarkable agility, effortlessly evading every shot. Seizing the opportunity, the creature lunged towards Tae Hoon, but he expertly dodged its attack and retaliated with a well-aimed shot. Surprisingly, the bullets had no effect on the monster, leaving Tae Hoon momentarily stunned. Undeterred, the relentless monster countered with a vicious swipe of its claws. Tae Hoon managed to evade the strike, swiftly turning the tables by using the knife attached to his gun to stab the monster in its gaping maw. With a forceful shove, he pushed the wounded creature away, evading yet another attack. Tae Hoon observed that this monster possessed a similar strength to its predecessors, but its lethal capabilities surpassed them. Determined to overcome this formidable foe, Tae Hoon resumed firing his weapon, only to find the monster relentlessly retaliating. Realizing that conventional means were insufficient, Tae Hoon made a quick decision. He closed his rifle and continued shooting, each bullet aimed with precision. As both he and the monster unleashed simultaneous attacks, Tae Hoon skillfully evaded the monster's assault and drove the knife directly into its skull. With a swift and decisive blow, the battle came to an end. Emerging victorious, Tae Hoon stood among the soldiers and other survivors, holding the head of the vanquished skeletal wolf triumphantly. The magic crystal within the wolf's remains promised not only an increase in power upon consumption, but also enhanced strength, improved physical defense proficiency, and heightened pneumatic strength proficiency. In addition, the crystal unlocked the unique skill, Wolf Howl. Tae Hoon made arrangements for the team members, instructing Kim Soo-jae and Bang Hyun-wook to stay in the car with the others, while On Sun-mai and Chang Sun-hoon would accompany him inside the museum. Additionally, Kim Ye-rong was appointed as temporary commander in Tae Hoon's absence. Despite the absence of immediate threats, Tae Hoon emphasized the importance of retreating to the barracks for self-protection during times of crisis. Each member assumed their designated roles as they prepared for the mission. Accompanied by Sung-hoon and Sun-mai, Tae Hoon led the way into the museum. The vast collection of antiques intrigued them. Among the artifacts, they came across a bow with arrows, estimated to be around 400 years old. As the world changed, these ancient relics also evolved. These particular arrows caught their attention, Sun Sin's arrows. Classified as a rank 4 relic, it possessed a rare relic value. The arrow's special effect involved channeling the power of a general and increasing penetration based on the user's pneumatic level. Tae Hoon noted that not all antiques possessed unique effects like this arrow, remarking that they were similar to humans in that regard. Sung Hoon hinted at the existence of another potentially special artifact, obtained through information he received from a former colleague. While deeply intrigued, he refrained from pursuing it due to ongoing police investigations. Undeterred, they continued their search, exploring various rooms within the museum. Sung Hoon estimated that finding the treasure might require considerable time. However, Sun Mai soon discovered a room that resonated with her instincts. Trusting her intuition, they followed her lead and stumbled upon the Golden Cup number 3. With a rank 3 relic grade and a special relic value, this cup possessed the power to grant premonitions of impending disasters. Excitement grew among the group as they marveled at the artifact's potential. Sung Hoon marveled at the relic's ability to predict the future. He acknowledged Kim Soo's significant role in their endeavors as well. As night fell, some soldiers stood guard on the museum roof while others rested inside. Hyun-wook, wielding a bat, engaged in training, impressing his fellow soldiers with his skills. Amidst their preparations, Hyun-wook expressed concern for his parents' and friends' well-being. Meanwhile, Sun Mai attended to the wounded soldiers, using her healing abilities to provide comfort. Tae Hoon called for everyone to be on standby, signaling the imminent need for action. The team swiftly exited the museum, with Hyun-wook standing by Tae Hoon's side, expressing his frustration and desire to confront the approaching threat. Tae Hoon reassured him that the situation was not caused by a monster. As a group of people arrived at the scene, their relief was palpable upon seeing the soldiers. Among the newcomers, a woman named Ju Ha-yeon recognized Hyun-wook, and Tae Hoon urged them all to seek safety inside the museum. As everyone entered the museum, they encountered people from the capital and Shiratori City who had joined forces to reach this location. Startling revelations emerged from the capital group, detailing the chaos and destruction they had experienced. Rumors circulated of a flying monster wreaking havoc on the entire city, with fighter jets resorting to missile attacks on the Mapo Bridge and the Yonghwa Bridge. Tae Hoon speculated that the same flying monster they encountered earlier might be responsible for the devastation. The military's response indicated that the Seongnam Air Force Base was likely still operational, resorting to bridge destruction to impede the monster's advance. Tae Hoon questioned the wisdom behind such a decision and wondered who issued the command. Inquisitive, Kim Soo asked Tae Hoon about their next course of action and what the survivors should do. Tae Hoon decided to rest at the museum for the day, clarifying that he did not intend to accompany the survivors. This statement shocked everyone, leading to a barrage of accusations directed at Tae Hoon. People questioned if he was abandoning them and reminded him of the soldiers' duty to protect civilians since they collected taxes. Overwhelmed by the voices of discontent, Tae Hoon responded with defiance. He stated that they were not ordinary soldiers but a monster-hunting organization with a specific purpose. Sacrifices had already been made along their journey, and Tae Hoon warned that anyone who dared to hinder them would face his unyielding resolve. In a remarkable display, Kim Tae Hoon's battle against the monsters earned him widespread respect. Within half a day, he also instructed the soldiers on charging their phones using car batteries, dissecting monsters, and other useful skills. Previously, he had refused to accept ordinary people, a decision that put the soldiers at ease. The ordinary people, feeling abandoned, did not dare to retaliate under his imposing presence. However, Hyun-wook attempted to persuade Tae Hoon on behalf of Ju Ha-yeon, a girl. Kim Soo also appealed to Tae Hoon, highlighting the soldiers' duty not to abandon anyone. Sun Mai added that men were capable of using guns, but administrative tasks required female assistance. After hearing their arguments, Tae Hoon decided to give them a chance, surprising Sung Hoon, who believed Tae Hoon would disagree. Tae Hoon ordered the soldiers to move the monsters' corpses. He then instructed all ordinary people, except children, to dissect the corpses within a set time limit. Tae Hoon gave them 30 minutes to cut off the monsters' legs, emphasizing that failure would make them a burden. Though disgusted initially, the ordinary people carried out the order in order to survive, knowing that abandonment meant certain death. In the end, 22 people successfully completed the task. Tae Hoon had planned this strategy intentionally. If he had accepted them from the beginning, they would not have obediently followed his orders. Furthermore, if the monster corpses could be utilized, it would require a significant workforce to dissect them. During the process, Sung Hoon noticed that the golden cup had mysteriously filled up. He immediately informed Tae Hoon. The golden cup possessed the power to predict the future. Without hesitation, Tae Hoon drank from the cup, which resulted in him falling unconscious. Chaos ensued as the city lay in ruins. When Tae Hoon regained consciousness, he found himself standing with a long sword on his back. He questioned whether he was dreaming as his body seemed to move on its own. Sun Hoon, bearing a claw scar on his face, lay on the ground nearby. Tae Hoon wondered if the others had perished. Notably, Sung Woon had grown significantly since their last encounter. Tae Hoon helped him to his feet, and Sung Hoon advised Tae Hoon to abandon him and run away to ensure his own survival. He warned that their pursuer would soon arrive. Reluctantly, Tae Hoon placed Sung Hoon inside a car and instructed him to go to Jeonju. Before leaving, Tae Hoon requested Sung Hoon to convey a message to Commander-in-Chief Lim Hyun-jun when he saw him. Sung Hoon protested, asserting that Tae Hoon did not need to sacrifice himself. Tae Hoon, unable to comprehend the situation as he was only dreaming of his future, sensed an impending threat and urged Sung Hoon to depart quickly. Tae Hoon screamed at him not to be a burden. Sung Hoon's final words were a plea for Tae Hoon to return alive. As Sung Hoon left in the car, Tae Hoon retrieved the sword from his back and employed his telekinetic ability to control various weapons. The flying monster, which Tae Hoon recognized as the same one they encountered previously, appeared. Tae Hoon remarked that he was strong but unable to defeat the monster. The battle was about to commence. Just as the battle commenced, Tae Hoon awoke, finding everyone gathered around him. Sun Mai advised him to rest a little longer, and Sung Hoon inquired about his well-being. As Tae Hoon had been lying there for a few hours, Sun Mai mentioned that his body seemed fine, but she couldn't explain why he had fainted. Tae Hoon informed them that he had foreseen his own death in his dream. He then requested a cup of coffee while explaining that although he didn't know who would survive, he was certain of his own demise. Hyun-wook expressed astonishment at the cup's ability to predict the future. Tae Hoon disclosed that based on Sung Hoon's appearance, the events he saw were projected to occur within 3 to 5 years. Sung Hoon proposed that they could use this knowledge to alter the future. Tae Hoon contemplated the whereabouts of Commander-in-Chief Lim Hyun-jin, who currently served as a colonel in Pochin City's ex-mechanized infantry cohort, a location that was not on the front lines and possessed ample firepower. It seemed likely that the troops would still exist in the future. Sun Mai speculated that there might be another organization seeking to eliminate Tae Hoon. Sung Hoon suggested that they needed to collect these artifacts and prevent them from falling into the wrong hands. The following day, Tae Hoon and his team encountered several boar-type monsters. Tae Hoon instructed his team to prepare themselves and conserve ammunition, leaving these monsters to Hyun-wook and himself. The 22 individuals who had passed Tae Hoon's test were both shocked and fearful. As the monsters approached, Tae Hoon utilized his telekinetic ability to manipulate cars, crushing the monsters in an attempt to halt their advance. However, this proved insufficient, prompting Tae Hoon to activate his black skin ability and issue a command to kill the monsters. As the monsters approached Tae Hoon and Hyun-wook, Ju Ha-yeon urgently called out to Hyun-wook, instructing him to evade the monster's attack. However, Hyun-wook skillfully counterattacked, effortlessly dealing with the threat. Tae Hoon showed his prowess too, wielding his black skin ability to defeat any monster that came his way. Together, they managed to vanquish all the monsters, impressing the observing soldiers with their strength. After their successful battle, Tae Hoon instructed Hyun-wook to return to the military camp for uniforms, weapons, and a vehicle for their camping stay. Following Tae Hoon's orders, Hyun-wook made the necessary arrangements. The soldiers then brought boxes of grenades to the second floor of their location. While Tae Hoon and Sung Hoon went out to scout the nearby area, Tae Hoon asked the remaining soldiers to guard the entrance. As night fell, the soldiers noticed an approaching figure. Kim Soo identified it as the colonel's car, prompting them to lower their guns but stay vigilant. Tae Hoon and Sung Hoon returned with a woman they found during their scouting mission in Pochin City. The woman, introduced as Baek Jeon, turned out to be a nurse. Inside the camp, Kim Soo inquired about Baek Jeon's identity. Sung Hoon revealed her name and profession as a nurse, found while they patrolled Pochin City. They encountered a decapitated corpse, initially suspecting it to be the monster's doing. However, upon Tae Hoon's examination, it appeared that the cut was made by a sharp object, ruling out a monster's involvement. Sun Mai remarked that in a vast world, anything could happen. Sung Hoon emphasized that this was just the beginning, as Baek Jeon shared information about another organization in Pochin City called the Messiah, led by Lee Sin-sung. The Messiah was significantly larger than Tae Hoon's organization and had many awakened individuals. The most alarming revelation was that the Messiah would offer a person as a sacrifice to a monster known as the Yellow-Eyed Devil every 10 days. The members were taken aback by the shocking revelation. Sung Hoon expressed his fear, finding it terrifying. But his greater concern was how the organization controlled the enigmatic Yellow-Eyed Devil. He continued, mentioning that he was startled when Nurse Baek Jeon informed him about the awakening. Apparently, it originated from survivors in the supermarket near the town hall, and they even hailed the man who saved them as the apocalypse hero, identified as Tae Hoon. Interrupting, Tae Hoon emphasized the need for caution and attention. He planned to confront the mysterious organization known as the Messiah alone. Kim Soo proposed the swift suppression of the other party if they proved to have bad intentions, but Hyun-wook insisted on joining Tae Hoon. Tae Hoon argued that they were united by fear, and eliminating their leader would weaken them significantly. He believed a direct confrontation might not be necessary, given his exceptional assassination skills. Tae Hoon prepared to depart, informing them of the date and time, October 1, 1922. He instructed them to go to the military camp and relocate all the weapons if he did not return by 5 p.m. the next day. Kim Soo was entrusted with full command in his absence. Sun Mai expressed her hope for Tae Hoon's safe return, not wanting to fall victim to the dangerous adversaries they faced. With his car ready, Tae Hoon set off on his mission. The Messiah group was inside a mall, each carrying their weapons. One member inquired about the whereabouts of Group B, to which another replied that they had gone to deal with a woman trying to escape, but hadn't returned yet. This woman they referred to as the nurse Baek Jeon. The scouting group was also missing, adding to their concerns. Discussing the situation, one member commented that the only threat left in the area was the yellow-eyed devil, implying that the rest of the adversaries had fled. He speculated that Group B might be having a good time with the woman they apprehended, and he hoped they wouldn't involve the rest of the group. Unknown to them, Tae Hoon had already taken care of the scouting group on the roof. Although it was not his usual style, he managed to finish the battle in just 1 hour. As the Messiah group gathered, a car approached them, making them think it was the missing scouting group. They readied their weapons, but as the car crashed through the building's gate, some of the Messiah members got caught in the impact. To their surprise, Tae Hoon was driving the car. Before the car hit the wall, he skillfully exited without leaving any trace. The remaining survivors were thrown into a panic, rushing to check the driver's seat only to find it empty. A masked man interrupted the conversation, instructing them to stop talking nonsense and go check something. In a flash, Tae Hoon swiftly defeated all the remaining survivors, leaving only the masked man standing. Tae Hoon approached him stealthily and pressed a dagger against his neck, threatening him with death unless he cooperated. Tae Hoon demanded to know how many people were inside the building and how much firepower they possessed. The masked man revealed that there were 50 people inside, along with 60 sacrifices on the second and third floors. The boss resided on the top floor. Tae Hoon had another question about the connection between the yellow-eyed devil and the Messiah group. The masked man disclosed that the creature lived in the Sinjung-dong station, and even the surrounding monsters feared to approach it. The Messiah group had previously sent an assault team, but only the leader returned alive. After that incident, the leader began sacrificing people to the monster and monopolizing the monster cores. The leader had transformed, gaining abilities such as spitting fire and wielding a sword that could cut monsters in half. The masked man then offered a deal to Tae Hoon, proposing to deal with the leader through him and tempting him with the presence of numerous beauties in the building. Tae Hoon quickly dismissed the offer, refusing to work with someone who would betray their own leader. Without hesitation, Tae Hoon sliced the masked man's neck, ending his life. Reflecting on the information provided, Tae Hoon concluded that it seemed accurate unless they had planned it beforehand. He put on his mask again, saying, "Never mind, it's fine." Tae Hoon pressed onward through the mall, confronting those who blocked his path. He urged them to surrender their weapons and cease resistance, yet the group remained unyielding. Undeterred, another individual rushed at him. Tae Hoon's skillful agility allowed him to evade the attack and retaliate swiftly. He continued his relentless assault, swiftly incapacitating anyone who dared to stand in his way. Suddenly, Tae Hoon felt the scorching heat of a fire attack approaching from behind. Swiftly, he evaded the fiery onslaught and reached for his gun. Taking aim, he fired at the leader, Lee Sin. Despite hitting Lee Sin's vital spots twice, the bullets proved ineffective against his bulletproof attire. Lee Sin sought refuge behind a pillar and retaliated by spewing fire from his mouth. Reacting swiftly, Tae Hoon rolled to the adjacent pillar, dodging the fiery assault. He counterattacked by firing shots at Lee Sin. In a surprising twist, Lee Sin revealed that Tae Hoon was the legendary Apocalypse hero, and he seemed excited to engage with him. Lee Sin proposed a discussion, as he was not opposed to cooperation. Lee Sin shared the grim state of the world after escaping from the Cheongna district, where he believed he was the lone survivor. The areas of Bucheon, Incheon, Sejong, Gwangmyo, and Gimp had fallen under the control of countless powerful monsters, leaving Bucheon defenseless. Tae Hoon began to suspect Lee Sin's motives and wondered about the sword in his hand, and the clothes he's wearing being made from black orc skin. Lee Sin's true intention became evident. He was stalling for time until his men arrived. Soon, a group of men joined them. Lee Sin then proposed a collaboration, using Bucheon as a springboard. He envisioned establishing a hunting organization there, emphasizing the potential for great accomplishments if they developed well together. Lee Sin's men were ready, carrying their weapons to confront Tae Hoon. Lee Sin informed them that Tae Hoon was positioned on the opposite side, hiding behind the second pillar from the left. As they advanced, however, Tae Hoon vanished only to reappear above them. He swiftly fired shots, catching some of Lee Sin's men off guard. Responding quickly, Lee Sin dashed towards Tae Hoon with a sword attack, but Tae Hoon promptly disappeared again. Unfortunately, the force of Lee Sin's attack not only cut a shelf but also cut his own men and scratched the ground. Suddenly, Tae Hoon reappeared behind Lee Sin and mocked his worthiness of the blade. Lee Sin continued his assault, swinging his sword fiercely at Tae Hoon. However, Tae Hoon skillfully dodged each attack. Seizing the opportunity, Tae Hoon counterattacked, striking Lee Sin's hands and then delivering a blow to the back of his knee. Finally, Tae Hoon hit him on the chin, causing Lee Sin to collapse to the ground. With the battle now over, Lee Sin inquired about Tae Hoon's identity, but Tae Hoon remained silent, taking the sword. As Tae Hoon held his sword against Lee Sin's neck, He remained unmoved by Lee Sin's pleas for mercy. In response, Lee Sin proposed an alternative approach, suggesting that they could achieve peace by maintaining the status quo and working together. He assured Tae Hoon that the yellow-eyed devil posed no threat to them if they joined forces. Lee Sin begged for his life, emphasizing the number of men working under him. However, Tae Hoon was unwavering and proceeded to behead Lee Sin. As a result, Tae Hoon obtained the Sword of the Imperator, a relic with a level 2 in special relic value. Additionally, he acquired the Flaming Gourd, another valuable relic with a level 5 and rare relic value, capable of using mana points to create flame wine and grant the ability to breathe fire. At a later time, Tae Hoon's Mac clan arrived at his location. They presented 4 conditions to the remaining members of Lee Sin's group. Firstly, all those awakened in Messiah must become hunting dogs for the Mac clan. Second, they were required to hand in 40% of all the cores they collect each week. One of Lee Sin's men objected, claiming they never agreed to be underlings and insisted they still belonged to Messiah. In response, Sun Hoon asked if the situation was not clear to the objecting man, emphasizing that they were not here to sign a contract. Suddenly, a tattooed man carrying an axe taunted Sun Hoon, calling him shorty and questioning if he was sick of living, daring to challenge an awakened individual. Tae Hoon then intervened, using his telekinetic ability to control an arrow and pointed it directly at the tattooed man's eye. Tae Hoon warned them that he could easily tear them apart but offered a second chance instead. He made it clear that if they dared to resort to violence or kill, he wouldn't hesitate to take action. Relenting, Tae Hoon returned the bow to his hand and ordered them to report to him every 3 days. They returned to their camping site under the new arrangement. Gathering his soldiers, Tae Hoon informed them that they would soon embark on a mission to hunt down the yellow-eyed devil. He explained the plan, acknowledging that the monster was remarkably strong. Sun Hoon expressed doubt about winning the fight, a sentiment shared by Hyeon Wook due to the creature's strength surpassing their previous opponents. However, Tae Hoon asserted that they had no choice but to take risks if they wanted to survive the apocalypse. He reassured them that this time, he's not going alone in the fight, as the entire Mac clan would be moving together to face the challenge. Tae Hoon and the clan gathered together to plan their next move. They know that every 10 days, the Messiah group would sacrifice a group of people to the monster that resided in the Sinjung-dong station. As they still had a week's time before the next sacrifice, Tae Hoon informed everyone to get ready and prepare for the hunt for monsters. Following their original plans, Sun Mai organized a medical group to take care of the injured. She also showed her group of girls the Holy Grail, which could use mana points to create healing holy water. Sun Mai emphasized its value and instructed them to use it only for heavily injured individuals. Meanwhile, Kim Soo took charge of leading Hyeon Wook and the attack team to clear the area of monsters. However, when the monsters got too close, the team faced difficulty in using grenades. Hyeon Wook and Kim Soo managed to save their fellow soldiers in the nick of time, showcasing their improvement in combat skills. Tae Hoon, on the other hand, demonstrated his exceptional strength by single-handedly defeating an entire army of monsters, consuming all their magical orbs to increase his power, reaching a strength level of 100 and a physical end of 89. Finally, after 7 long days of tirelessly clearing the area, the day had arrived when they would confront the dreaded yellow-eyed devil. Tae Hoon found himself high on a roof's building, unleashing a howl to summon the terrifying creature. As he did so, a colossal black snake emerged from underground, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Tae Hoon bravely positioned himself in front of the creature, its gaping mouth ready to consume him. Swiftly, he seized his gun and fired at its head, momentarily diverting its attention. Without wasting a moment, Tae Hoon started a daring escape, leading the massive snake on a pursuit through the city streets. With remarkable agility, he leaped from car to car, evading the snake's destructive path. Unfortunately, the creature destroyed all the cars behind him. Ahead, there were 2 buses, and Tae Hoon effortlessly leaped over them while the snake obliterated the vehicles behind him. Nearby, a group of 10 soldiers armed with anti-tank RPGs had assembled. Among them were Hyeon Wook and Sun Mai. Both soldiers were astonished by the sheer size of the snake. Tae Hoon then grabbed his sword, the Imperator, and approached the soldiers carrying the powerful anti-RPG tank known as Panzer Faust III, boasting exceptional firepower and range, making it ideal against the massive black snake. The plan was for Tae Hoon to lure the snake toward a designated spot while the soldiers with the anti-RPG would hide at a safe distance, awaiting orders. Tae Hoon knew that they didn't require a large force. Around 10 skilled individuals wielding the anti-tank weapon would be sufficient, as regular weapons proved ineffective. Just to be safe, Tae Hoon instructed Sun Mai and Sung Hoon to remain at the camp, while Hyeon Wook was tasked with learning how to operate the RPG from the second lieutenant. Kim Soo, since Hyeon Wook was intelligent and could grasp it quickly, Tae Hoon assured them that he could temporarily restrain the snake for about 10 seconds using his pneumatic strength, during which the second lieutenant would focus fire on the creature. If the plan were to fail, whether he lived or died, Tae Hoon emphasized the need for an immediate retreat, transferring all command authority to the second lieutenant. In the midst of the intense confrontation, Tae Hoon found himself facing a daunting challenge. With unwavering determination, he utilized his telekinesis to grasp the serpent, However, the creature's strength was overwhelming, and Tae Hoon knew he could only hold it for a mere 10 seconds. Sensing the urgency, Kim Soo swiftly issued the command to open fire. 10 soldiers promptly launched RPGs at the formidable snake, engulfing it in flames. Although the serpent sustained substantial damage, astonishingly, it remained alive, leaving the group in disbelief. As the snake's attention shifted menacingly towards the group, Kim Soo instructed everyone to retreat to safety. Undeterred, Tae Hoon brandished his sword and delivered a powerful strike, but the serpent seemed impervious to the attack. The creature retaliated, launching a fierce assault on Tae Hoon. Demonstrating remarkable agility, Tae Hoon skillfully dodged each of the snake's strikes and seized a fleeting opportunity to launch another attack. However, the serpent countered swiftly, sending Tae Hoon hurtling from the rooftop, causing severe injuries and even damaging one of his eyes. Hyun-wook and Kim Soo were deeply concerned for their comrades' well-being as the serpent readied itself to devour Tae Hoon. In a moment of profound realization, Tae Hoon acknowledged that escape was not an option. Embracing bravery, he made an audacious move, leaping directly into the serpent's mouth, allowing the creature to engulf him completely. Hyun-wook expresses his desire to save Tae Hoon, but Kim Soo intervenes, citing it as a direct order from the major. She warns that if the fighting continues, they will all perish. Deciding to prioritize the team's safety, she commands a retreat while providing cover for everyone. Inside the snake, Tae Hoon is still alive, but immobilized and unable to move. As the team struggles against the relentless attack, he closes his eyes and focuses. Tae Hoon taps into his telekinetic abilities, sensing the snake's heart beating within its body. With a burst of concentration, he skillfully applies his telekinesis to squeeze the snake's heart. The snake immediately halts its attack as it struggles to cope with the unexpected pressure on its heart. In response, the snake forcibly expels Tae Hoon from its body, but his attempt to shatter its heart falls short. As the team rushes to Tae Hoon's aid, Hyun-wook remarks how fortunate he is to still be alive. Kim Soo adds that they initially believed Tae Hoon sacrificed himself for the team. Tae Hoon sternly responds, questioning their willingness to disobey his orders. Then, rising to his feet, Tae Hoon acknowledges that it's fortunate they haven't left yet. He issues an order for the team to gang up on the snake immediately. As the team starts shooting at the snake, drawing its attention, Tae Hoon seizes the opportunity to leap over the snake's body and deliver a powerful blow to its head with his sword. Despite the sword piercing through the snake's body, the creature remains active and retaliates by crushing Tae Hoon against a building. Undeterred, Tae Hoon holds onto his sword tightly. Eventually, he emerges victorious. The team is overjoyed that Tae Hoon survived the encounter. After defeating the snake, Tae Hoon claims the magical orb of the black snake. Swallowing it, he gains its various enhancements, including increased strength, physical endurance, pneumatic strength, and magical ability. The orb also grants him the skill of Mamba's eyes, allowing him to discern the truth. His wounds begin to heal rapidly, and one of his eyes even takes on the appearance of a snake's eye due to the skill's effects. The team is astonished by his new appearance. With the battle behind them, they return to their campsite where the soldiers who stayed behind express their relief and excitement that they have returned safely. Sung-hoon praises Tae Hoon for his remarkable abilities, while Sun-mi empathizes with the challenges he must have faced. The atmosphere is filled with happiness after such a triumphant battle. After a brief period of rest, the entire Mak clan soldiers, with the exception of the wounded, resumed their journey. Hyun-wook and the rest of the team indulged in a well-deserved meal and drink following their triumph over the Black Snake. With no need for concealment, they relocated their headquarters to the city hall enriched in resources. Utilizing excavators and heavy machinery, they meticulously dissected the Black Snake and utilized its materials to fortify their defenses. Despite employing such equipment, cutting through the Black Snake's skin proved to be a challenging task due to its enduring nature even in death. Tae Hoon astutely pointed out that the snake's durability remained formidable. Afterward, Tae Hoon gathered the team to strategize their next move. Sun-mi revealed that even after dissecting the awakened individuals, they could not find the cores, referring to Lee Sin's awakened men. This revelation led them to the conclusion that cores were exclusive to monsters. Sung-hoon informed them about a skilled leather processor named Park Gapsu within their ranks, suggesting they seek his expertise to bolster their defenses. Additionally, they needed the assistance of a person codenamed Whale, an expert in grave robbing and smuggling. Tae Hoon inquired about Whale's whereabouts, and Sung-hoon informed him that he knew a place not too far from there but lacked certainty. Sung-hoon presented a map and warned about the dangers of the upcoming journey. Hyun-wook questioned why a residential area would be hazardous, to which Kim Soo explained that places with human presence often attract monsters, as humans are their prey. Sun-mi emphasized the importance of rest and conservation of limited supplies, urging the soldiers to prepare before embarking. However, Tae Hoon intervened, asserting that they would set off immediately. The team was taken aback by Tae Hoon's decision. Kim Soo reminded him that they didn't have precise information about the area. Nonetheless, Tae Hoon expressed confidence that there would be no monsters stronger than the Black Snake nearby. To be cautious, he decided to bring only Sung-hoon, who could identify artifacts, and Hyun-wook, whose combat abilities had improved. Tae Hoon instructed Hyun-wook to gather pills and ammunition, awaiting further orders. Before departing, Tae Hoon reminded them of the old rules. The second lieutenant would assume leadership of the troops, and Sun Mai would tend to the injured. Following his orders, Kim Soo and Sun Mai complied with determination. Tae Hoon, accompanied by Sun Hoon and Hyun-wook, embarked on their journey to find the codenamed whale. As they drove, Tae Hoon couldn't help but reflect on the intense battle with the black snake, considering it a miracle that he had survived. In the world of monsters, the rank of a creature could be distinguished by the color of its pupils, and each rank varied significantly in terms of strength, following the colors of the rainbow. The black snake belonged to the third rank, but the flying monster they encountered last time was likely of a higher rank. Upon reaching their destination, a horde of monsters confronted them. In a fit of rage, Tae Hoon activated his skill, Mamba's Eyes, and unleashed the power of his Imperator sword. With incredible swiftness and precision, Tae Hoon cut down all the monsters with a single mighty swing of his blade. Both Hyun-wook and Sun Hoon were deeply impressed by his extraordinary strength. Once the battle had concluded, the ground was littered with numerous monster corpses. Afterward, they proceeded to the building where Whale was rumored to reside. Upon entering, they found themselves surrounded by a remarkable collection of artifacts akin to a museum. Sung Hoon was taken aback by the sheer quantity, knowing that Whale would take whatever he pleased, but he hadn't anticipated such an extensive array. With countless artifacts to sift through, they found it challenging to inspect each one using their phones. Tae Hoon decided to employ a different approach and pressed his hand against the wall, signaling that there was nothing valuable there. Subsequently, he destroyed the wall, revealing another room filled with precious artifacts. Tae Hoon declared they would only take 9 of the artifacts, leaving the rest behind. Hyun-wook suggested that they should analyze the artifacts they were leaving, but Tae Hoon seemed uninterested as he sipped his coffee. Among the artifacts were the Book of the Big Dipper, classified as an artifact level 4 with a special grade. Its effect allowed the user to mark the exact positions of monsters. Another artifact, Beauty's Drawing, was ranked at level 5 with a rare grade, empowering the user to harness mana to significantly boost their strength. Hyun-wook acknowledged Tae Hoon's wise decision, while Sung Hoon stood amazed and swore his allegiance to Tae Hoon until the end of his days. Upon returning to their headquarters, they received a warm welcome from their fellow soldiers, including Kim Soo and Sun Mai. Tae Hoon and the others not only brought back artifacts but also essential parts of the monsters Tae Hoon had slain during their mission. The gathered parts included those from goblin shamans and mud trolls, which could be used to create pills. The soldiers were astonished by Tae Hoon's ability to collect such resources on his own. The clan congregated around a large map to utilize the newly acquired artifacts. Sung Hoon considered the Book of the Big Dipper to be like a cheat as it not only marked monsters' exact positions, but also revealed their ranks. The map displayed flashing dots, with each color indicating the rank of the respective monsters. Sung Hoon explained that this artifact effectively acted as a radar, allowing them to detect nearby weaker monsters and progressively stronger ones as they ventured further away. Curious, Tae Hoon inquired about the highest ranked monster they could detect. Sun Hoon responded, mentioning a dark blue dot in both Mount Hala and Mount Baekdu. Additionally, there were 9 green dots in their country, while Bucheon was overrun with light green and yellow dots. This revelation led them to realize that there were numerous monsters stronger than the Black Snake. Tae Hoon recalled Lee Sin's warning, understanding that his current level of strength wouldn't suffice to deal with these formidable foes. Word quickly spread about Tae Hoon, and people from Bucheon City flocked to join the Mac clan due to the increasing rumors. The influx of new members became so overwhelming that Tae Hoon had no choice but to transform the Mac clan into the Mac Club. To recruit awakened individuals and monster hunters, Tae Hoon assembled them in front of the government hall. However, the leaders of the awakened and hunters were not thrilled about having to listen to Tae Hoon. As time passed without Tae Hoon appearing, complaints began to rise among the crowd, who had been waiting for 2 hours. But the moment Tae Hoon finally emerged, silence fell over the assembly. One individual in the crowd arrogantly thought he could easily take down Tae Hoon, but all objections vanished as Tae Hoon displayed his power. Utilizing his telekinesis ability, he controlled all of their weapons, making them float above their heads. With the situation under his control, Tae Hoon calmly declared, "Now, let's start the negotiations." Tae Hoon had risen to a position of immense respect within Bucheon City. Without his charitable contributions, it was unlikely that anyone else could even consider joining. Alongside Sung Hoon, he stood before the citizens of Bucheon, ready to select new members for their clan. The crowd had heard rumors that strength would be rewarded with firearms, ammunition, and high-level equipment. Tae Hoon confirmed this, stating that those who met the requirements could join immediately. The announcement filled the crowd with excitement, yet they were soon reminded by Hyun-wook that their jubilation might be premature. The supply of firearms and ammunition was limited, so fulfilling the requirements was crucial. Curiosity about these requirements arose, prompting questions from the people. Tae Hoon explained that he wanted to test their determination, asking for a volunteer to offer an arm. While initial complaints arose, it was evident that Tae Hoon's intention was to gauge their resolve. The decision went unquestioned, as everyone recognized that Tae Hoon himself would undoubtedly endure such a trial. What began as anger soon transformed into apprehension. The Mac clan's concerns about an overwhelming number of volunteers were assuaged. Ultimately, 2 individuals stepped forward, a man and a woman. Tae Hoon inquired if anyone else was willing, but no other hands were raised. He instructed the volunteers to step forward, questioning their preparedness. Their response was affirmative. In a display of his unique telekinetic ability, Tae Hoon wielded his sword with precision, bringing it down towards the volunteers' arms. Yet, the blade halted inches above the ground, sparing their limbs. The sword returned to Tae Hoon's grasp as he informed them that he would allow them to retain their arms for now. However, a stern warning followed. Any breach of discipline or failure to obey orders would result in him personally revoking their limbs. With this declaration, Tae Hoon directed the new recruits to return to headquarters with the other members, while the remaining spectators were dismissed. Sung Hoon concluded the event, reminding the city's inhabitants not to overlook their obligation of providing magical crystals on a weekly basis. Subsequently, at the headquarters, Tae Hoon and his fellow members gathered to provide guidance to the newly recruited individuals. They were faced with a choice between various collected artifacts. One of the recruits inquired if they could test the artifacts first. Tae Hoon granted permission for this trial. Turning to Sung Hoon, Tae Hoon posed a question regarding the timeline for equipment production. Sung Hoon consulted with Park Gapsu, the skilled leather processor previously mentioned. Park Gapsu estimated that a batch of equipment could potentially be crafted by the end of the day. Sung Hoon proposed that if Tae Hoon agreed, mass production could commence. Tae Hoon swiftly directed them to proceed to the workshop. Meanwhile, Kim Soo delivered urgent news to Tae Hoon, revealing that level 4 monsters near Bucheon City had initiated movement. Tae Hoon acknowledged the challenge, noting their inability to gauge the opposition's strength. He foresaw difficulty in combating the level 4 monsters. Kim Soo further disclosed the presence of a level 3 monster gradually approaching Bucheon City. Additionally, lower-level monsters, categorized as level 2 and below, were converging toward the city's vicinity. Sung Hoon had initially believed they had some time before a crisis emerged, yet the impending danger loomed closer than expected. The impending storm's tranquility was deceptive. A formidable force comprised of level 4, level 3, and numerous level 2 monsters was advancing. Tae Hoon recognized this as a unique opportunity to confront a level 4 monster. With time of the essence, he stressed the vital importance of timely supply delivery for the upcoming battle. Tae Hoon outlined a plan for select members, including himself, to swiftly eliminate the level 3 monsters. However, he acknowledged the inability of any individual to face level 2 monsters alone. In response, a strategy was formulated. Hyun-wook and Kim Soo were designated to lead the hunting expedition, accompanied by other members. Tae Hoon foresaw that the battle would deplete their firearm and ammunition reserves. In preparation, a contingency was established. They would acquire additional weaponry from 2 nearby troops stationed in Sejong and Incheon. Delegating this task to the new members, Tae Hoon shifted focus to addressing the level 4 monster. He emphasized that their current lack of information rendered them ill-prepared to confront such a formidable adversary. Instead, he advised patience and growth, suggesting they wait until they were sufficiently powerful before attempting to challenge the level 4 monster. In the interim, their focus should be on adhering to the established plan and organizing an inventory of weapons. Following this, they proceeded to the workshop, where the presence of Tae Hoon and his companions was announced to Park Gapsu by a soldier laboring there. Sung Hoon took the initiative to introduce Tae Hoon to the workshop's president. Tae Hoon respectfully bowed and introduced himself as Kim Tae Hoon. He expressed regret for not visiting Park Gapsu sooner, who, in turn, assured Tae Hoon that such formality was unnecessary. With urgency in mind, Tae Hoon swiftly shifted the conversation to the matter at hand. He inquired if he could examine the newly produced goods. Leveraging Park Gapsu's expertise as a skilled leather processor, they had managed to fashion a complete set of clothing from the black snake skin. This ensemble boasted a range of effects: heightened defense, improved magical resistance, faster strength recovery, enhanced strength, and an augmented defensive ability after infusing it with strength. A total of 20 sets had already been created, with recent production gains allowing for approximately 10 sets to be crafted daily. Tae Hoon expressed satisfaction with Park Gapsu's exceptional work. Park Gapsu further disclosed the potential of crafting around 90 sets using the available black snake skin. Tae Hoon conveyed this information to the group, explaining that upon donning these garments, Hyun-wook, Kim Soo, could confidently face level 2 monsters. Park Gapsu's skill extended beyond clothing, as he had fashioned a variety of sharp weapons from the black snake's teeth. Additionally, he had crafted Eye of the Black Snake pills, capable of enabling the skill to discern the truth. The weapons derived from the black snake's teeth possessed the unique capability to enhance their sharpness through infused strength. The remarkable craftsmanship left them all in awe. Tae Hoon took the opportunity to address Hyun-wook, Kim Soo, Lee Soo-young, and Yang Young-hwan directly, presenting them with their new weapons. He emphasized the importance of not overlooking the newly provided equipment. He took a moment to address Lee Soo and Yang Young, acknowledging that rewards were typically bestowed after a mission's accomplishment. However, given the urgency of the situation, he saw no issue in granting their rewards beforehand. He also candidly admitted that he hadn't yet established the level of trust that warranted such a gesture. He encouraged them to keep this in mind. Expressing gratitude to Park Gapsu, Tae Hoon assured him of a future visit. With that, the group concluded their visit. As the team departed, Park Gapsu couldn't help but remark on the man's assertive demeanor, comparing it to the sharpness of a knife. He now understood the basis for Sung Hoon's high praise, as Tae Hoon's actions spoke volumes about his character. Positioned as sentinels, Hyun Wook and Kim Soo maintained their vigilance outside Tae Hoon's chamber. Meanwhile, within the confines of the room, Tae Hoon reclined on an upholstered chair, his mind adrift in the reverie of his destiny, fueled once more by a sip from the coveted golden cup. In his dream, he witnessed a city ablaze, reduced to ruins. Tae Hoon himself bore grievous wounds, and amidst this chaos, Sun Mai's anguished voice pierced through, calling out his name. Notably, Tae Hoon observed her hair had grown longer during the intervening time. Tears streaked her face as she implored him to awaken, prompting Tae Hoon to reflect on the chilling coldness that pervaded his being. The implication was clear. Tae Hoon teetered on the precipice of death. Sun Mai's voice carried a poignant message. The power to alter his fate lay within Tae Hoon's grasp. She imparted this vital insight, harboring hope that her guidance would prove instrumental. With foreknowledge of the significance the golden cup held for the group, Sun Mai had anticipated Tae Hoon's reliance on it. Hence, she had bequeathed this crucial directive to her present counterpart, a bid to reshape the impending future. Startlingly, Tae Hoon jolted awake from the dream, grappling with the recurring pattern of these visions. Promptly, he convened the team to share the revelations gleaned from his nocturnal encounter. With death looming large in his dream, Sun Mai had bestowed a legacy of knowledge. The group now grasped the authentic manner of employing the golden cup. Their futures entwined. Sun Mai from a forthcoming era had divulged 6 potent artifacts of note: the Emil Bell, the gilt bronze incense burner of Beach, the Gwangido steel, the sword of Gaojin, the green dragon crescent blade, and the Kusanagi blade. Of these, 4 were substantiated to exist in the tangible world. The remaining 2, shrouded in the legends of China and Japan, found no record within Tae Hoon's archives. Sung Hoon bolstered this understanding, attesting to the presence of 4 artifacts between Baeo and Bucheon City, while Jeonju remained devoid of their influence. Speculation arose regarding relics housed in China and Japan, currently exhibited in Jeonju's National Museum. Tae Hoon, however, cast doubt upon this notion, surmising either pillage or increased peril in that locale. Furthermore, the possibility of the Seoul Defense Squad's intervention lingered. To encapsulate, Baeo and Bucheon City remained untamed, their potential untapped. Possession of the China-based Gwangido steel and the sword of Gaojin hinted at 2 plausible pathways: venturing into China or awaiting the inevitable arrival of foreign awakened beings. Tae Hoon extrapolated that, under current conditions, a journey northward was unavoidable, unless circumstance dictated otherwise. Amidst their discourse, a significant question emerged: who would ultimately orchestrate the dire fate that befell Tae Hoon in his prophetic dream? An unsettling likelihood was illuminated. An awakened entity bore a considerable likelihood of being the harbinger of his misfortune. Persisting in his discourse, Tae Hoon's words flowed, even though Sun Mai remained in close proximity, choosing not to partake in the battle. Tae Hoon acknowledged the rationale behind her decision. If their adversaries took the form of monsters, they would never release their grip on her. He shouldered the blame, confessing his own inadequacy in providing protection. Regret cast its shadow as he lamented his lack of strength. Turning his attention to Hyun Wook, Tae Hoon recollected an earlier discussion in which he likened their reality to a game, one where the eradication of monsters equated to earning experience points and ascending levels. Hyun Wook affirmed this analogy, drawing parallels to the classic RPG genre. This prompted Tae Hoon's inquiry: was there a cap on the monster count? Kim Soo interjected, negating any such limit. Curiosity persisted, probing the topic of strength trials. Tae Hoon interjected again, underscoring the ongoing escalation of power as awakened individuals grew more potent. With each diminishing wave of monsters, human awakenings would surge, a predictable cycle. Tae Hoon concluded that despite the altering role of humans from mere stepping stones to active contenders, the ultimate outcome would mirror the past, a landscape marred by human conflict. The following day dawned, casting Yang Young and Lee Soo in the driver's seat as they embarked on the mission set forth by Tae Hoon. The entirety of the Mac clan soldiers donned the newly crafted Black Snake equipment, a testament to their readiness. Tae Hoon's directives echoed in their minds, urging them to stock up on an arsenal of weapons and recently developed pills. The current status around the government building remained uncertain. Tae Hoon's caution was palpable, evident in his mandate for Yang Young and Lee Soo to venture into military zones for weapon retrieval. Tae Hoon clarified that the troop area was relatively free from monsters beyond level 2, yet level 1 creatures posed a consistent threat. With a careful tone, he underscored the importance of vigilance, distinguishing between the orange hue of level 2 monsters and the red hue of their level 1 counterparts. Understanding that Hyun Wook and Kim Soo were not yet equipped to confront level 2 monsters individually, Tae Hoon outlined a strategy. They were to exploit the map's guidance to pinpoint and eliminate monsters one by one. As for Sung Hoon and Sun Mai, Tae Hoon assigned them a critical role to remain stationed at the government building alongside their fellow members. Their responsibility encompassed both safeguarding the base and tending to the wounded. A recurrent theme emerged as Tae Hoon stressed the significance of perpetual map monitoring. A definitive directive resounded. Upon mission completion, an immediate return to base was essential. Concluding with a heartfelt farewell, Tae Hoon extended his final words of care and concern. Within the streets, a menacing congregation of crocodile-type monsters amassed, wreaking havoc and mercilessly slaughtering innocents. Amid the fiendish horde, a colossal creature with 4 arms emerged, exuding a formidable aura. Boldly positioned on the black snake skull, Tae Hoon confronted the horde, their vile intentions evident as they began scaling the skull's surface to reach him. Among the ranks of these monstrosities, weaker beings trembled in paralysis, paralyzed by their own fear. Tae Hoon's memory resurfaced, a recollection of his strategic counsel to the team. The mere presence of the black snake bone at the city entrance would deter ordinary monsters, safeguarding them against intrusion. With a commanding gesture, Tae Hoon signaled his soldiers atop nearby buildings to stand ready. The monsters roared in defiance, a prelude to the imminent upheaval. Executing his plan with precision, Tae Hoon authorized the unleashing of their arsenal. Explosions erupted as soldiers hurled grenades, obliterating the weaker adversaries in a blaze of destruction. Swiftly transitioning, they unleashed a barrage of gunfire upon the horde. A challenge presented itself in the form of the gargantuan 4-armed monster, impervious to conventional bullets. This juggernaut retaliated, releasing a torrent of flames towards the soldiers perched above the building. In the face of danger, Tae Hoon intervened with unparalleled prowess. He harnessed the Imperator sword in conjunction with the Eye of the Black Snake's skill, slashing through multiple adversaries in a graceful dance of destruction. Turning his focus to the 4-armed behemoth, he engaged it in a fierce duel. Meanwhile, Hyun Wook and Sun Mai grappled with a level 2 monster in a battle marked by intensity. Together, they synchronized their movements, deftly evading the monster's relentless assaults. Despite being outnumbered, their resilience shone through. Amid the fray, Kim Soo pondered aloud whether Tae Hoon was often confronted with such overwhelming adversaries. Hyun Wook quipped, dismissing the daunting display as a trifling challenge compared to Tae Hoon's encounters. He methodically aimed a powerful blow at the monster's knee, using his bat as a weapon. Capitalizing on the distraction, Kim Soo landed a precise shot on the monster's eye, eliciting a pained reaction. Seizing the opportunity, Hyun Wook delivered a final, decisive blow to the creature's face. As it reeled, Kim Soo seized the moment, leveraging the monster's body to unleash a finishing move that shattered the adversary. Engulfed in a ferocious clash, Tae Hoon confronted the formidable 4-armed monstrosity head-on. His relentless assault proved fruitful as his blade found its mark, severing one of the creature's limbs. Swift retaliation ensued as the monster's tail lashed out, poised to strike. In a display of extraordinary agility, Tae Hoon leapt lithely, evading the imminent danger. Exploiting a momentary opening, the behemoth unleashed a scorching burst of fire from its gaping maw. Employing his telekinetic prowess, Tae Hoon intervened, manipulating the fire attack to detonate harmlessly in the air above. The tide shifted abruptly as an unexpected assailant pounced upon the 4-armed menace from its blind spot. With swift brutality, the monster was reduced to shreds, its demise orchestrated by the 4-armed sharp claws. It became evident that Tae Hoon's ancestor vision skill enabled mastery over potent creatures, a realization that unveiled his puppeteer-like control over the attacking monster. Harnessing this opportune distraction, Tae Hoon capitalized, cleaving the 4-armed horror into 2 distinct halves. The macabre spectacle reverberated through the horde, inducing a collective retreat in the wake of such overwhelming prowess. Tae Hoon, now unburdened by immediate threat, shifted his attention toward the remaining horde of awe-stricken creatures. 3 days later, within the confines of a building, corpses lay strewn across the floor, a haunting testament to the recent turmoil. Tae Hoon stood resolute, his gaze fixed upon an awakened individual before him. With a firearm leveled, the man demanded an explanation for Tae Hoon's presence in this location. Tae Hoon offered a casual reply, stating he was merely passing through. Yet, Tae Hoon was undeterred, addressing the heart-wrenching evidence around them. He confronted the awakened man, accusing him of orchestrating the gruesome carnage and the unspeakable suffering inflicted upon defenseless women in the building's depths. Tae Hoon's resolve was unwavering, declaring his unwavering stance against such heinous acts. Despite acknowledging the world's descent into chaos due to the onslaught of monsters, he held individuals like this awakened man accountable for perpetuating a living nightmare. A tension-laden moment hung suspended as the awakened man attempted to pull the trigger, only to discover his gun was bereft of ammunition. Tae Hoon seized upon this revelation, recounting the man's prior shots fired, a total of 5. He advised the man to ascertain the remaining bullet count before acting further, citing his keen observations even in the absence of tactile sensitivity. The man, undeterred, hurled the gun at Tae Hoon in a desperate gambit. However, Tae Hoon's nimble evasion quashed the attempt, prompting him to urge the man to surrender and cease his futile resistance. A tense exchange ensued as the awakened man identified himself as Lee Jae-sop. His admission revealed his own awakened nature, coupled with a reluctance to wield his abilities due to their debilitating side effects. Manipulating objects with his telekinesis, Lee Jae-sub showcased his formidable power. In response, Tae Hoon swiftly marshaled his own telekinetic might, compelling Lee Jae-sub to the ground with irresistible force. Triumphantly, Tae Hoon challenged Lee Jae-sub to a moment of introspection, preparing to pose a crucial question that would unravel deeper truths. 3 days prior, a streak of favorable circumstances unfurled. The team executed their strategy with seamless precision, seamlessly vanquishing level 2 and 3 monsters. Triumphs abounded as they amassed an impressive arsenal of weapons, and, remarkably, no member faced the dire fate of sacrifice. Minor injuries punctuated the otherwise unblemished triumph, injuries of a nature swiftly healing. Tae Hoon lauded their resounding success, commending their collective effort as he emphasized their readiness to confront the looming challenge of a level 4 monster. In the midst of this buoyant atmosphere, a sudden interruption arose. Sung Hoon hastened to Tae Hoon, bearing unexpected tidings. A level 4 monster, once pinpointed in Gwangmyeong, had inexplicably vanished from the map. The telltale green dot that marked its presence had vanished without a trace. Tae Hoon speculated on the possibilities, highlighting that the monster might possess an elusive ability to cloak itself from detection or to swiftly extricate itself from the tracking region. Another conjecture emerged: the creature may have succumbed to the onslaught of others. In the face of impending peril, Hyun-wook expressed skepticism regarding the team's capacity to contend with a level 4 adversary, considering the formidable might of level 3 monsters. Tae Hoon offered a critical insight, asserting that disparities in strength among Awakens were inherently normal due to distinct variations in their stats. He dispelled the notion that strength alone determined success, citing the potential influence of powerful artifacts or unique abilities that could tip the balance. Reflecting on his own vulnerability, Tae Hoon urged his comrades to eschew passivity and embrace proactive measures. He disclosed his intention to venture alone to Gwangmyeong, a journey motivated by investigation rather than confrontation. With an air of resolve, he delegated the imperative task of guarding the camp to his companions, urging them to exercise vigilance and discretion while ensuring they maintained some margin of flexibility. Returning to the present situation, Tae Hoon inquired of Lee, urging him to recount the events that transpired 3 days earlier. In response, Lee disclosed that over 10 individuals clad in specialized military attire resembling Special Forces uniforms had infiltrated the streets of Gwangmyeong. Despite Lee's group maintaining a vigilant stance, the individuals donning the Special Forces garb exhibited an unconcerned attitude towards their presence. Tae Hoon then sought to know what transpired next, prompting Lee to explain that anomalies had emerged among the monstrous creatures inhabiting the city. Almost instantaneously, the population of these creatures in the urban area witnessed a significant decline. Tae Hoon mused aloud, considering the implications of the Special Forces' involvement. He speculated that their actions suggested more than a mere search and rescue operation. Their unhesitant entry into the street implied a proactive hunting strategy. This, Tae Hoon surmised, could be due to their prior knowledge of a level 4 monster's existence in that vicinity. Despite Tae Hoon's considerable time spent investigating the location, he had failed to identify any hazardous elements, leading him to deduce that the Special Forces contingent might have already eradicated the level 4 monster. While Tae Hoon contemplated these details, Lee harnessed his telekinetic ability to manipulate a metal bar, directing it menacingly towards the back of Tae Hoon's head. With a warning, Lee threatened to pierce Tae Hoon's brain if he remained standing idly. Swiftly responding, Tae Hoon deftly evaded the attack by seizing hold of the metal bar. Tae Hoon then inquired as to why Lee was still prone on the floor. In response, Lee grabbed a chair and launched a surprise assault on Tae Hoon. As events unfolded, Tae Hoon proceeded to search the area further. Simultaneously, Lee met his demise from the impact of the metal bar on his head. With the arrival of night, Tae Hoon eventually stumbled upon the entrance to an underground subway. Armed with a gun and guided by a flashlight, he ventured down the dimly lit path. His observation that the surroundings were unusually silent hinted at the absence of nearby monsters. However, an ever-present sensation of oppressive intensity lingered in the atmosphere. The pervasive sense of gunpowder and blood further underscored the gravity of the situation. Continuing his exploration, Tae Hoon stumbled upon the lifeless bodies of the individuals who had been clad in Special Forces attire, a detail previously recounted by Lee. Observing the scene, Tae Hoon remarked, "Seems like they were just your run-of-the-mill counter-terrorist unit." He employed his phone to assess the condition of the deceased, analyzing their attributes. Their strength appeared moderately satisfactory, though not exceptional. Their special abilities to be below average, each possessing 2 skills, a grade 6 ancestral vision and a grade 6 reincarnation. Tae Hoon noted that these attributes mirrored those of most awakened soldiers, suggesting a systematic approach to their cultivation. With a critical tone, Tae Hoon stated, "Dealing with a level 4 using these abilities would pose a considerable challenge. Even handling level 3 monsters is problematic." Raising an inquiry, Tae Hoon questioned the rationale behind such a well-equipped unit seemingly oblivious to the limitations of their capabilities. The soldiers had brought an assortment of weaponry and artifacts with them, Notably, among the artifacts was the Sunsubai Monument rubbings, graded at 5 in relic strength with a normal rarity. Its effect induced fear in weaker monsters, prompting Tae Hoon to mull over the potency of even a mere rubbings book. He speculated that the steel itself held a potent defensive attribute. Nearby lay an anti-tank rocket, alongside yet another artifact, the Warrior's Spear. This relic held a grade 4 status with a rare rarity. Tae Hoon surmised that the bronze spear, once wielded by ancient warriors, would be obliterated upon impact by the anti-tank rocket. Expressing dismay at the potential loss of such a valuable asset, he remarked that the Warrior's Spear had a single-use attribute. Tae Hoon proceeded to contemplate the synergy between gunpowder and weaponry, envisioning a scenario where the combined force of these elements would compel even a level 4 monster to evade the impending attack. As he ventured further, a formidable aura enveloped him. Continuing his path, Tae Hoon encountered the lifeless form of a colossal rat-like monster. Employing his black snake-eye skill, he ascertained that this creature held the classification of a level 4 monster. It appeared that the 10 individuals donning Special Forces attire had succeeded in slaying the beast, but had paid the ultimate price in the process. Upon concluding his investigation, Tae Hoon made his way back to headquarters. Remarkably, his physical prowess and strength had undergone a noticeable augmentation. Notably, his special abilities had also experienced a surge in their respective ranks. Adding to this newfound power, he acquired 2 fresh skills through the consumption of magical orbs. The first, obtained from the 4-armed monster he had encountered earlier, bestowed upon him the Flamespitter of 5th grade. This skill enabled him to transform energy into a fiery substance, expelling it as a spout of flames. The intensity of the flames corresponded to the quantity of energy expended, intricately aligned with the user's pneumatic strength properties. Further enhancing his repertoire, Tae Hoon absorbed the magical orb originating from the colossal mouse he had discovered earlier. This acquisition granted him the rattle-tailed mouse's hearing skill, rated at the 4th grade. This extraordinary ability enabled him to perceive even the faintest of sounds, including the most delicate trickle of water. Summoning his team together, Tae Hoon embarked on recounting the findings from his investigation. A sense of astonishment reverberated through the group as they absorbed the revelation that the level 4 monster had met its demise. Sunmai, voicing her thoughts, admitted that while the news was positive, she found herself somewhat at a loss for words. Sung Hoon interjected, highlighting that the artifact they had procured, the rubbings of Sunsubai Monument, was a treasured possession of the National Museum, implying the presence of the Capital Defense Army in the vicinity. He acknowledged this development as the emergence of a formidable contender in their endeavors. Building upon Sung Hoon's observation, Sunmai posited that the Capital Defense Army likely recognized the value of monster stones, evident in their relentless hunts disregarding potential hazards. Kim Soo, still grappling with the situation, questioned the necessity of dispatching such a potent unit. Lee Soo chimed in, suggesting that their actions could stem from a lack of adequate intelligence, prompting the need to ascertain the combat prowess of potential adversaries through direct confrontation. Sung Hoon contributed an intriguing notion. There might exist another artifact, perhaps even an original edition, within the confines of the National Museum. Redirecting their focus, Tae Hoon presented a pivotal discovery. A photograph on one of the Special Forces operatives' phones revealed a rendezvous scheduled for March 3rd at Gimpo Airport. This revelation hinted at the presence of additional units. Sung Hoon deduced that the situation involved multiple units operating independently, conducting hunts beyond the city limits before reuniting at a predetermined time and location. Lee Soo raised a valid query, pondering whether their airport visit was solely for transportation purposes. Tae Hoon countered, emphasizing the airport's deserted and spacious nature, implying a lack of monster threats. Yang Yoon contributed a succinct perspective, either engage or abstain. Tae Hoon, met with the inquiry of their course of action, conceded that avoidance was no longer feasible since they were already within the proximity of Gwangmyeong and the airport. Sung Hoon weighed in, proposing that aligning with the larger Capital Defense Army could be a pragmatic choice, bolstered by the presence of formidable awakened individuals like Tae Hoon and his companions. Sun Mai advocated for negotiation as the inevitable next step, though Kim Soo raised concerns over potential repercussions if such discussions soured. Hyun-wook, adding a touch of humor, remarked on Sun Mai's unchanged hairstyle, playfully hinting at Tae Hoon's longevity. With this lighthearted remark, Tae Hoon concluded the meeting, urging his team to carry out their respective tasks diligently. Transitioning to Liang Titan City in China, the setting witnessed an assembly of diverse and ominous creatures congregating upon the streets. Amid this scene, a contingent of soldiers stood at attention, accompanied by a commanding officer and 2 identical twin girls, all adorned in striking red uniforms. A comment from one of the twins alluded to the upcoming task, retrieving a core following a carpet bombing operation. She pondered aloud if their presence was truly essential for such a mission. The commanding officer, Major Chen Lang, swiftly dismissed her remark, emphasizing their purpose was to safeguard their nation rather than bring about its destruction. In response, she playfully brushed off her initial comment, asserting that it had been a jest. As the scene unfolded, it was evident that Chen Lang held authority over the unit. He instructed the other twin to initiate her performance. The second twin commenced playing a traditional Chinese lute, imbuing the entire assembly of soldiers with a palpable surge of energy. It became apparent that this artifact possessed the remarkable capability to invigorate and empower allies. A radiant yellow aura enveloped the assembled troops. With a resounding command from their major, the soldiers launched a concerted assault, their combined might directed towards obliterating the encroaching monsters. Among their ranks, Chen Lang wielded an artifact sword, a powerful implement that no doubt added to their combat prowess. Within the headquarters confines, Sun Mai and her team diligently attended to the wounded soldiers. Outside the building, the soldiers appeared fatigued and drained, weariness etched across their faces. Engaging in conversation, Sun Hoon informed Tae Hoon that they had been assigned the task of retrieving the corpse of the level 4 monster. Despite their lack of severe injuries, the soldiers' overall condition left much to be desired. Tae Hoon offered his perspective, acknowledging that even though the corpse had undergone dissection, the strain on ordinary soldiers remained substantial. Meanwhile, Kim Soo assumed the role of issuing directives to the soldiers. Group A received instructions to approach from the front entrance, while Group B was tasked with the rear entry, both maintaining a heightened state of vigilance. Observing this coordination, Tae Hoon seized the opportunity to convey his thoughts to Sun Hoon, emphasizing the significance of taking note of these procedures. Following the incursion of monsters, cities that had witnessed the vanishing of human presence began a gradual descent into desolation. Modern amenities such as telecommunications and electricity ceased to function, plunging these once thriving urban landscapes into darkness. Yet, with the convergence of skilled individuals from diverse fields, a transformation began to take shape. Aided by the collective efforts of these talented professionals, numerous challenges were met head-on and resolved. The installation of solar panels orchestrated by ingenious engineers breathed new life into the power grid, reinstating the availability of electricity. Delegating responsibilities, Tae Hoon entrusted the role of training new recruits to 2nd Lieutenant Kim Soo with the capable assistance of Hyeon Wook. In this endeavor, Kim Soo would impart expertise in gun techniques, while Hyeon Wook would guide the recruits in mastering close combat skills. Their efforts were strategically aimed at fortifying the group's preparedness for the impending conflict, prioritizing the enhancement of their awakened abilities. Simultaneously, Tae Hoon assigned Lee Soo and Yang Young the vital task of procuring sustenance from expansive supermarkets. In a parallel vein, Sun Hoon was entrusted with the map, charged with the imperative mission of navigating the terrain and evading potential confrontations with the lurking monsters. To address the pressing concern of dwindling food supplies, an exploration team was meticulously assembled. This team's formation not only addressed immediate challenges but also extended to the resolution of non-urgent matters, underlining the comprehensive approach taken by the group. Putting forth a proposal, Sun Hoon suggested to Tae Hoon the idea of instituting a hierarchical structure within the group, a notion spurred by the assortment of names that others were using to address Tae Hoon. In his typical nonchalant manner, Tae Hoon responded with an acquiescing "whatever pleases you." With this, the foundation for a hierarchy was laid. At its pinnacle stood Tae Hoon, designated as the guild chairman. Directly beneath him were the deputy chairpersons, a division established between two classes, combatants and non-combatants. Within the ranks of combatants, Kim Soo assumed the mantle of instructor, while Hyeon Wook held the position of assistant instructor. Lee Soo shouldered the responsibilities of logistics, and Yang Young undertook the role of transportation captain. Among the non-combatants, Sun Mai took on the mantle of doctor, and Sun Hoon emerged as the administrator. Completing the hierarchy were the guild members, collectively embodying the growth and evolution of the Mac Guild. With this organizational structure in place, a renewed sense of determination coursed through their ranks, rekindling their fighting spirit. Afterward, Tae Hoon once again imbibed from the golden chalice to peer into the days ahead. Once more, he found himself in a desolate setting, teetering on the precipice of demise. His right hand lay severed, a casualty of the skirmish. Standing against him were the identical Chinese twins, previously encountered, flanking their leader, the formidable Chan Lang. The twin grasping a blade addressed Tae Hoon, commending his endurance as a worthy dragon hunter, having weathered their onslaught remarkably. Present-day Tae Hoon etched the twins' visages into his memory. Suddenly, an enigmatic figure materialized behind Tae Hoon. Though he sensed the intruder's presence, it was a moment too late, as the assailant thrust his sword through Tae Hoon's back. The stranger acknowledged Tae Hoon's perceptiveness despite being grievously wounded, remarking on the futility of concealing oneself from him. Mockingly, he inquired if Tae Hoon had any final declarations. Considering Tae Hoon's achievements, he deemed it appropriate to grant him an opportunity to leave behind final wishes. Tae Hoon from the future interjected, imploring the contemporary Tae Hoon to speak before his heart succumbed to the blade's puncture. Urgently, he disclosed critical information. The twins were agents of the enigmatic six-headed serpent organization, and the traitor's identity was Osebum. The future Tae Hoon implored his present self to commit Osebum's voice to memory, a potent tool to deploy in the present moment. Evidently, future Tae Hoon had foreseen his present self employing the golden chalice and, thus, transmitted this crucial message. Withdrawing the sword from Tae Hoon's back, the enigmatic figure inquired about Tae Hoon's murmurs, taunting him if those were to be his final words. The sword-wielding twin interjected, urging the assailant to swiftly end Tae Hoon's life. As the stranger raised his weapon for the final blow, Tae Hoon from the future bid a farewell to his present self, a poignant parting gesture. Emerging from his slumber, Tae Hoon awoke with a start, his breath ragged. He murmured in relief, noting that his hands remained intact. Summoning his team, he gathered them to share the glimpse of the impending future he had beheld. He mused aloud about the curious timing of having such a vivid dream merely 3 days before the looming battle. Sung Hoon interjected, his voice tinged with skepticism. Dragon Slayer. You could slay a dragon yet still fall victim to them. He cautioned Tae Hoon, underscoring the unpredictability of fate. Kim Soo, with a hint of concern, remarked on the inauspicious nature of Tae Hoon's premonition. She suggested that steering clear of the airport might be wise, considering the ominous undertones. Tae Hoon countered her stance, labeling those he had once trusted as traitors, or at the very least, past collaborators. Resolute, he asserted that their course lay in visiting the airport to glean vital intelligence. Presenting an image of the sword wielded by one of the twins to Sung Hoon via phone, Tae Hoon sought his input. Observing the image, Sung Hoon confirmed its identity, recognizing it as the legendary Gaujian sword previously discussed. Tae Hoon reflected on the progress they had made compared to their earlier struggles, acknowledging the value of this newfound information. In an unexpected turn, Hyun Wook arrived, beckoning Tae Hoon's attention. Excitedly, he shared his recent triumph, having conquered a level 2 monster single-handedly, thanks to the efficacy of the new weaponry. Amidst laughter from Hyun Wook and light mockery from Sun Mai, Tae Hoon joined in the mirth, appreciating the camaraderie. Yet, Tae Hoon's mind remained preoccupied with the specter of the traitorous Osebum. The forewarning from his future self, implicating Osebum's allegiance to the enigmatic six-headed serpent, weighed heavily on his thoughts. In the snowy weather of March 3rd, the following month, at Gimpo Airport, the Special Forces teams gathered slowly at the meeting point. They entered the airport, and all the team members, including teams D, B, and K, came together. The leaders of these teams began discussing their current statuses. One of them mentioned that the situation on the battlefield wasn't favorable. They had trouble dealing with a few orange monsters. Notably, Team C had not yet arrived, and there had been no communication from them since they departed for Gwangyo. The atmosphere shifted as Colonel Ud Hyun, the leader of the Capital Defense Command 3rd Battalion and the battalion commander of the Special Forces, arrived. He commanded the attention of the Special Forces teams. Colonel Yu inquired about the absence of Major Osebum. The soldiers explained that they were unable to locate him. Despite his tendency to be laid back, he had never been late for assemblies before. Some soldiers speculated if something had happened to him, but others thought it unlikely unless he encountered monsters even stronger than the green-ranked ones. Beside Colonel Ud, another soldier pointed out that the situation could have been avoided if they hadn't lost the map. He apologized for his comment and continued, noting that the discipline among soldiers had decreased since the apocalypse. All of a sudden, the entire group of soldiers switched to alert mode to protect Colonel Ud. He instructed them to fall back. A soldier from the surveillance unit was asked to provide an update on the situation. They reported that they couldn't confirm the identity of the target outside, but there were vital signs detected on the runway. It seemed to be a person rather than a monster. Tae Hoon also arrived at the airport to investigate and negotiate. The soldiers rushed outside and formed a circle around Tae Hoon, aiming their guns at him. The soldiers inside informed Colonel Yu that the individual they were facing was a young man named Tae Hoon. This man expressed a desire to speak with the person in charge privately. A soldier next to the colonel protested, shouting that it was nonsense. He ordered the soldiers to remove Tae Hoon, and if he resisted, they were to eliminate him. The colonel was taken aback by the name and immediately intervened. He asked for the name again, and the soldier confirmed that it was indeed Tae Hoon. After some time, Ud approached Tae Hoon to talk. Ud addressed him as Major Tae Hoon, noting that he had expected Tae Hoon to still be alive. Tae Hoon recognized Ud as well and called him the colonel. The soldiers stayed at a distance, watching their conversation. One soldier speculated whether Tae Hoon might know their colonel, and another soldier replied that he probably was a soldier himself, though his young age suggested he might not be part of a higher-ranking group. Ud lit a cigarette and remarked that Tae Hoon had changed significantly. He brought up the name Mac Guild and found it intriguing. It appeared that Tae Hoon wanted to negotiate for a peaceful resolution. Ud explained that he couldn't make such a decision as he lacked the authority to negotiate with a suspicious anti-government organization. He told Tae Hoon that he should have foreseen that things would turn out this way. Tae Hoon responded, expressing his desire to avoid a prolonged war. Ud doubted Tae Hoon's ability to engage in a sustained conflict, considering the number of people Tae Hoon might have. Tae Hoon then took off his glove and revealed to Ud that the soldiers on his side were all awakened beings who had received special training. He implied that he couldn't handle all of them at once. Tae Hoon showed Ud his pattern, indicating his status as an awakened being. He went on to claim that if he initiated an attack, he was confident he could eliminate half of the members present. Ud wondered if Tae Hoon was joking but soon realized from Tae Hoon's past military achievements that there was indeed a possibility he could carry out such a feat. Out of nowhere, the Major appeared behind Tae Hoon. Tae Hoon noticed him nearby and questioned his identity. It turned out to be the same man who had betrayed Tae Hoon in the future, Major Osebum. Osebum apologized to the colonel for his tardiness, explaining that he had accidentally fallen asleep. Tae Hoon immediately recognized Osebum's voice as belonging to the person who had betrayed his future self. Osebum mentioned he had good hearing and overheard Tae Hoon's conversation from a distance. He referred to Tae Hoon as the boss in Butchin but didn't want his position to be jeopardized because of their presence. Colonel Yudi stepped in, proposing a fistfight between Tae Hoon and Osebum. Osebum questioned the colonel, asking if it was okay as long as he didn't fatally injure his opponent. He expressed his belief that the colonel was taking things too far. Osebum continued, revealing that Tae Hoon used to be a member of a secret military unit before becoming an awakened being. Therefore, Osebum would be fighting someone who was similar to himself, a human weapon. Both Tae Hoon and Osebum readied themselves. Osebum asked Tae Hoon what would happen if he accidentally ended up causing fatal harm. The two began their fight, with Osebum showcasing his martial arts skills and Tae Hoon adeptly countering every move. They engaged in an intense battle, capturing the attention of the watching soldiers who marveled at their strength. Tae Hoon and Osebum seemed evenly matched. One soldier wondered aloud if Major Osebum might lose, but the colonel assured them that it was unlikely. He explained that Osebum had earned the nickname Slayer for a reason, having defeated yellow-level monsters on his own and even teaming up to take down green-level monsters. The colonel also shared some details about Major Yirong, which is Tae Hoon, who was associated with a unit called Ghost and was its sole survivor. These details were known among the higher-ups and few others. The colonel praised Tae Hoon's willingness to choose himself for impossible tasks without hesitation, and Yudi added that, as someone who had fought alongside him, he agreed with this assessment. In the midst of their clash, Tae Hoon and Osebum proved to be evenly matched, countering each other's moves skillfully. Osebum commented on his superior stats compared to Tae Hoon's and questioned why he wasn't losing. Tae Hoon capitalized on an opening, landing a hit on Osebum's chin and attempting to force a surrender by gripping his hand. Osebum managed to break free and countered with a kick attack. Tae Hoon swiftly responded with a kick of his own and followed it with a powerful punch that brought Osebum to the ground. The sight of Major Osebum's defeat left everyone astonished, and the colonel applauded Tae Hoon's victory. Soldiers gathered around Osebum, confirming that his injuries weren't life-threatening, and that he had only lost consciousness. Tae Hoon asked Yudi for information about the state of the arm in Tiangchuan City. Yudi explained that the Capital Defense Army was temporarily stationed in the Hubei district, and his current task was to establish contact with various forces outside of Tiangchuan City. Yudi continued with his explanation. Among the 31 bridges along the Haijiang River, only Nadara Bridge and Nagasu Bridge were usable. Tae Hoon likely understood what Yudi meant. Tae Hoon questioned whether the army intentionally bombed the other bridges, and Yudi confirmed that it was a combined effort, half by soldiers and half by monsters. Tiangchuan City's population had suffered greatly. The destruction of tall buildings, power outages, and the intricate subway system all played into the monsters' advantage. Tae Hoon then inquired about Number 1's status. Yudi assured him they had ensured Number 1's safety. But Tae Hoon, using his rattle-tailed mouse's hearing skill, he heard Yudi's heartbeats and sensed that he was lying. He suspected that something had gone wrong with Number 1, and various factions were already making their moves. Tae Hoon informed Yudi about their plans. Jai Gui Hui was tasked with clearing out monsters near Yangchuan City and safeguarding survivors. If the army required support, the Mac clan would assist in eliminating monsters in major cities. Yudi agreed to relay this information. Before parting ways, Tae Hoon returned the dog tags of Yudi's fallen comrades, explaining that he found them in the subway. He had also conducted a simple funeral for them. Yudi expressed his gratitude. And in this moment, an agreement was reached to meet again on March 18th, half a month later. Yudi and his soldiers returned to the airport. Yudi contemplated his earlier expectation that Osebum, known as Kinhu, would not be able to defeat Tae Hoon, also known as Yirong. He mused about reports suggesting that Tae Hoon had experienced war-related trauma and had even harmed himself. Despite this, Yudi recognized that the current apocalypse provided a fitting stage for Tae Hoon's growth. He believed that Tae Hoon, who was uninterested in status, would only become stronger. However, Yudi also worried that if Tae Hoon became uncontrollable, it would lead to a nightmare for everyone. Meanwhile, as Tae Hoon headed to the headquarters, he reflected on his determination not to lose to Osebum, the one who had betrayed his future self. He suspected the presence of someone behind the scenes. Simultaneously, 2 soldiers covertly followed Tae Hoon. These soldiers had received orders from Yudi to shadow Tae Hoon discreetly. They were cautioned to be careful and reminded of Tae Hoon's victory over Major Kinhu. If they were discovered, they were to retreat immediately. Suddenly, Tae Hoon halted and disappeared in an instant, surprising the 2 pursuing soldiers. He swiftly reappeared before them. They launched an attack, but Tae Hoon utilized his telekinesis skill to immobilize them. Tae Hoon informed them that he didn't want to become an enemy of Colonel Liu. One of the soldiers questioned his intentions, and Tae Hoon replied that he wanted them to accompany him for half a month or face confinement by him, which would make Colonel Liu uneasy daily. He gave them a mere 3 seconds to make their decision. Ultimately, the two soldiers chose to follow Tae Hoon. Tae Hoon, accompanied by the two soldiers sent by UD, arrived at the headquarters. Among them was Sergeant Yoo Jilin, a woman and a member of the Capital Defense Force 3rd Division, and Sergeant Kong Lin, a man and also a member of the same division. Kim Soo and Hyun Wook observed their presence, wondering why both soldiers from the Defense Force and both awakened were here. Tae Hoon informed his team that these two were appointed as monitors by the colonel. He emphasized that any suspicious behavior from them would result in immediate execution. He instructed his team to first assign someone to monitor the newcomers and then call the leaders to assemble in the conference room for a meeting. During the meeting, Tae Hoon shared the troubling situation in Tangchuan City. The whereabouts of the president and prime minister were unknown, and Sun Hoon pointed out that this essentially meant that the city had been seized by the Capital Defense Army. Moreover, one of the six-headed beings had established his own presence within the city. Tae Hoon expressed his intention to eliminate Osebum to prevent potential future problems. He noted that the colonel, though not awakened, was at a disadvantage because only awakened individuals held positions of authority within the Capital Defense Army. The colonel was essentially a pawn in their game. Sung Hoon raised the question of whether Tae Hoon intended to use the colonel to aid the capital defense while he pursued the relics. Sun Mai posed another inquiry: would the colonel be willing to help their cause? Tae Hoon explained that the lieutenant had his own ambitions and was willing to take action despite the unfavorable circumstances. Tae Hoon emphasized that, considering the relics were more valuable than weapons, obtaining them from the colonel wouldn't be an easy task. Tae Hoon stated his determination not to plead for anything, but rather, he hoped that the colonel would proactively choose to offer his assistance. While Zhu Jilin and Kong Lin explored the Mac clan's base, they observed the clan's activities. Zhu Jilin contemplated the bleakness that had settled in after the monster invasion. However, the Mac clan stood apart. They had constructed defensive barriers, harnessed solar energy, and established a research unit to study the origins of monsters. The clan also dedicated efforts to clear the nearby ruins. Zhu Jilin noticed how the clan members smoked cigarettes, shared food, and enjoyed breaks together, creating an atmosphere of relaxation and contentment. Zhu Jilin's thoughts continued as she reflected on the differences. In contrast, similar departments within their own military felt like forced labor, a situation where one had to work incessantly under the threat of guns just to secure a meal. For survivors, the awakened individuals and soldiers had transitioned from being saviors to becoming akin to new monsters themselves. Later, the members of the Mac clan set out to eliminate the nearby monsters. Zhu Jilin and Kong Lin teamed up to take down spider-like creatures. Zhu Jilin noted that these monsters weren't overly difficult to deal with individually, but their sheer number posed a challenge. Considering the situation, she suggested returning to find additional help. Kong Lin reassured her that they were being looked after. Hyun Wook was effortlessly handling the monsters despite their numbers. Similarly, Kim Soo displayed ease in defeating them. Lee Soo and Yang Young were also effectively dispatching the monsters. Zhu Jilin watched in astonishment, wondering if it was too easy. Suddenly, a formidable monster emerged. This was a cause for concern. Zhu Jilin and Kong Lin felt apprehensive as the monster was classified as a yellow grade or level 3 threat. Just then, Tae Hoon arrived on the scene. One of them inquired about the number of level 3 monsters Tae Hoon had defeated. Hyun Wook responded that Tae Hoon had taken down about 6 of them. The revelation left Zhu Jilin and Kong Lin shocked. Tae Hoon drew his sword, poised to face the level 3 monster. Utilizing his Black Snake Eye skill, he dispatched the creature with a single swing of his sword. On March 18th, at Gimpo International Airport, Tae Hoon, along with Sung Hoon, Zhu Jilin, and Kong Lin, convened with Colonel UD. Sung Hoon handed a list to a historical relic expert from the Korea National Museum. The list contained the relics the Mac clan was interested in acquiring. Upon seeing the list, the relic expert erupted in anger, as the Mac clan's desires encompassed too many national treasures. These included the Golden Crown, Golden Belt, the Stone of Myrick Buddha, and the Bell of King Seongdeok. In response, Sung Hoon expressed surprise, noting that he believed the two sides had already reached an agreement. In light of the situation, Colonel Udi proposed an alternative solution to Tae Hoon. If Tae Hoon could accomplish a specific task, the colonel would grant them one of the requested relics. Tae Hoon accepted this proposition, and with that, the meeting came to an end. As Tae Hoon and Sung Hoon departed, they found themselves under the surveillance of snipers who were poised to act upon the colonel's orders. However, Tae Hoon wasn't taken by surprise. He conveyed precise coordinates to the colonel, revealing the exact locations of the snipers: 400 meters north, 60 meters high, 250 meters southeast, and 350 meters southwest. He warned the colonel that if any of the snipers fired, consequences would follow. Tae Hoon then emphasized the need for caution in the future. In that moment, the colonel realized he was dealing with someone beyond the ordinary. This marked the conclusion of the meeting. Zhu Jilin and Kong Lin shared their report about the Mac clan and their current status. The soldiers of the Capital Defense Force were surprised by the report. The two soldiers apologized to their colonel and assured him that they were being truthful. The colonel replied, saying he didn't doubt them, but he found their report about Tae Hoon unbelievable. Tae Hoon had managed to swiftly defeat a yellow-grayed monster, which exceeded the Colonel's expectations. The agreement between Tae Hoon and the Colonel was this: if Tae Hoon successfully rescued a girl from Incheon, the Colonel would reward him with a national treasure. The Colonel saw the current crisis as an opportunity. He realized that he was the only one who had teamed up with Tae Hoon. If Tae Hoon accomplished the mission successfully, it would enhance his own influence, and Tae Hoon's success would naturally reflect well on him. Lieutenant Colonel Yu decided to place all his trust in Tae Hoon. In the end, things unfolded according to Tae Hoon's plan. Following this, Yudi instructed Ju Jilin and Konglin to stay in Bucheon City and keep an eye on Tae Hoon. However, if he managed to rescue the girl from Incheon, they were to bring her to Yudi. As Tae Hoon and Sun Hoon headed towards the headquarters, they talked about the deal once more. Sun Hoon reminded Tae Hoon that if he rescued an important person trapped in Incheon City, he would receive a national treasure. Curiously, Sun Hoon asked Tae Hoon who this person was and why the Capital Defense Command Army was offering a national treasure to save her. Tae Hoon explained that she was the daughter of Douglas Kennedy, the U.S. ambassador to the Republic of Korea. Sun Hoon was puzzled and questioned why they were going to such lengths to save an American daughter, especially since she wasn't Korean. Tae Hoon clarified the situation, saying that without the president or prime minister during a time of war, the presence of the United States forces Korea alone could provide a pretext for controlling Korea. The U.S. ambassador held significant influence over the USFK, which had much greater strength than Sun Hoon realized. Tae Hoon further elaborated that if the U.S. sent reinforcements, any group opposing the USFK would essentially be defeated. He believed that the daughter of the U.S. ambassador was a key figure for exerting pressure. Sun Hoon summarized their understanding. Essentially, they wanted to use her as leverage against him. Tae Hoon agreed, acknowledging that Yudi had undergone significant changes. Reflecting on this, Tae Hoon noted that he understood better than anyone else that this era required people to adapt and evolve in order to survive. After a few days, in Incheon City, Tae Hoon stood on top of a building's roof, searching for his destination. Many monsters roamed the streets. Ju Jilin showcased her combat skills by defeating several of them. Suddenly, a formidable monster, an orange-grayed one, emerged in front of her. Just as the monster lunged, Tae Hoon arrived. He informed her that he had located their destination and urged her to go. Astonishingly, he halted the monster with one hand and killed it with a single strike. Ju Jilin was amazed by his strength. Tae Hoon prompted her, asking why she was hesitating. With that, they resumed their journey. Their plan involved Tae Hoon taking one of Yudi's sergeants along. When the team questioned whether one was sufficient, Tae Hoon assured them it was. He explained that the lieutenant colonel likely sent someone there earlier, and they might have failed. Tae Hoon pointed out that he now had the power to rescue her and that survivors were likely present. Therefore, it made sense to take just one from the team. Additionally, he mentioned an intense power struggle within the army. Knowing the other group's intentions, except for the lieutenant colonel, was challenging. Given this situation, Tae Hoon divided the group into two. Lee Soo and Yang Young took on surveillance duty, while Kim Soo led the remaining members. Returning to the present, Tae Hoon and Ju Jilin arrived in front of the survivors' base. Ju Jilin questioned why these people were fighting each other, even with children and women within the protective walls. She wondered how they had managed to survive with such weapons and speculated that they must have a capable leader. The sight of people using various melee and gun weapons to kill each other caught her attention. She turned to Tae Hoon and suggested helping since there were children involved. She expressed concern about the possibility of the children being used as suicide bombers. Tae Hoon explained that terrorists typically use children around 10 years old for such actions, as it becomes harder to control them past the age of 13. He added that children under 7 would be too weak to carry out bomb-related orders. Tae Hoon then instructed the sergeant to safeguard the people within the barricade while leaving the 2 tanks to him. With gratitude, they immediately set to work. Ju Jilin swiftly took down those armed with guns. Outside, 2 tanks posed a serious threat to the survivors. One tank operator lamented the delay in using these powerful machines earlier, which might have prevented previous conflicts. Ju Jilin stood atop the protective wall, perplexed by the situation and the presence of tanks. Tae Hoon efficiently dispatched the attackers outside the base before focusing on the tanks. One tank operator inquired if Tae Hoon was an awakener, while another reassured the survivors that they had tanks on their side. Tae Hoon showcased his new skill, the flame spitter, igniting his hand. As a tank fired at him, Tae Hoon countered with a fire attack, not only neutralizing the tank's projectile but also obliterating the tank itself. He then swiftly moved toward the second tank, using his sword to cleave it in half. The survivors and Ju Jilin were left in awe of his extraordinary power. Once all the attackers had been defeated, the survivors gathered around Tae Hoon and Ju Jilin. Ju Jilin introduced herself as Kim Yu-rai, a member of the 35th Commandos of the Capital Defense Army. The survivors began discussing whether Tae Hoon and Ju Jilin had come to rescue them, as they had effortlessly dispatched the marauders. Tae Hoon then turned to a priest wearing a cross necklace and inquired if he was in charge. Introducing himself as the leader of the Mac Guild, responsible for managing Bucheon City, Tae Hoon sought information about the situation. The priest introduced himself as Baek Young Jun, the one who guided the survivors. Tae Hoon explained their newness to the city and asked the priest to provide insight. Baek-young-jun agreed and motioned for them to follow. As they moved, Tae Hoon noticed the cross necklace worn by the priest. He recognized it as a level 3 artifact known as the Cross of a Saint, possessing a unique value. The cross held a special effect, generating a potent force that repelled monsters, a legacy from the 103rd martyred saint. Upon entering a building, the priest began describing the dire situation. A towering green-eyed devil, 10 meters tall with armor like muscles, had taken control of Ikan City. Accompanied by numerous underlings, it had mercilessly slaughtered countless people, even wiping out the soldiers sent to confront it. Zhu Jilin inquired about the safety of their current location. The priest held onto the cross and explained that despite the monsters surrounding the area, they refrained from attacking here. He attributed this unusual protection to the grace of God. Young-jun then shared that there was a survivor from the previous group of soldiers who had ventured here. Tae Hoon speculated that there might be multiple artifacts deterring monsters and mentioned King Jinhyung's Sunsubai artifact. He continued to contemplate the situation, acknowledging the truth of a young child's earlier statement. Ikan City was beyond salvation. He went on to express his belief that the survival of the people in this city was nothing short of a miracle, even though he doesn't believe in miracles. They proceeded to visit the survivor from the previous group of soldiers who had ventured here. The survivor's condition was grim, having lost both legs and his left arm. He identified himself as Sergeant Park Tu-sun, a member of the 35th Commandos. Despite his injuries, he recounted the events that unfolded. The mission had begun on January 22nd with the goal of investigating the fates of the families and officials associated with the United States ambassadors and VIPs from other countries. However, a major challenge arose due to the inability to transport large forces or tanks from Seoul to Incheon, given the collapsed social infrastructure. As a result, the team consisted only of a small group of awakened individuals and elites. The sergeant shared that their assumptions were drastically wrong. They were unable to overcome the monsters, and the presence of traitors within their ranks worsened their situation. Before they could even engage in battle, they were completely annihilated. The survivor then handed Zhu Jilin a unique artifact. When questioned, he tearfully explained that the traitor's motive revolved around artifacts. To prevent the traitor from obtaining it, he abandoned his comrades. The artifact was known as a horse figure type earthenware, rated at level 2. Its effect involved injecting mana to animate the mounted doll. The duration of movement depended on the mana injected, essentially allowing the spirit within the doll to be summoned for assistance. Afterward, Tae Hoon and Zhu Jilin found a rooftop to rest on. Confirming Tae Hoon's speculation, Zhu Jilin shared that she had been assigned 2 tasks. One was to monitor Tae Hoon, while the second involved collecting the artifacts left behind by the failed mission soldiers. Naturally, the latter task held greater significance. Curious, Tae Hoon asked her why she was willing to risk her mission by giving him the horse figure type earthenware artifact. He inquired if she believed he would forcefully take it from her. She responded, stating that she knew he wasn't that kind of person, but she wanted to make a request. Tae Hoon prompted her to share her request, and she explained that she could no longer trust the Capital Defense Command. She sought his assistance in identifying and eliminating the traitors, offering her obedience to his commands until the mission's completion. Tae Hoon agreed to help her, which brought happiness to her upon hearing his response. In the meantime, the leader of the raiders, Yang Seok-chun, seethed with anger upon learning that his tanks had been decimated. Recalling a man's warning that government forces from Seoul would soon enter Incheon City, he realized that they were on the brink of destruction at the hands of these troops. Despite his own lack of merit, that same man had supplied Seok-chun with tanks and powerful firearms as long as he completed his tasks effectively. Given the dire circumstances, Seok-chun understood he had to swiftly escape Ikan City, and acquiring the artifact possessed by the priest was now crucial for his getaway. Abruptly, the entrance was shattered, revealing Tae Hoon standing before Seok-chun. Tae Hoon nonchalantly remarked on the situation's boredom. Seok-chun's men readied their guns, but before they could open fire, Tae Hoon utilized his telekinesis to fling them aside. He then seized Seok-chun, demanding answers. Seok-chun pleaded for a moment, explaining that there was a man above him who had taught him tank operation and supplied their weaponry. He further divulged the impending arrival of government forces from Seoul into Incheon City. Tae Hoon sarcastically responded that the situation was quite evident, given Seok-chun's position as the leader of the raiders in the city and his extensive record of heinous crimes. Tae Hoon denounced Seok-chun as even worse than the monsters. Desperate, Seok-chun begged for his life, but Tae Hoon remained resolute. Ultimately, Tae Hoon took Seok-chun's life, bringing his reign of terror to an end. Following that, Tae Hoon made his way to the rooftop, contemplating the potential scenario of the 6 snakes having taken the Deeding-Ojido map. Such possession could grant them the ability to embark on similar expeditions. He mused about their intentions. Could they be stealing artifacts? The Capital Defense Command had equipped their team members with high-level artifacts to enhance mission success. However, Tae Hoon considered the possibility of team members dying on a mission and their artifacts becoming vulnerable to theft. Recalling the day the 6 snakes contacted Yang was shortly after Tae Hoon met Osebum, he found the situation increasingly complex. He speculated that Yang might have been aware of Tae Hoon's impending arrival in Incheon City, orchestrating a scheme to utilize the plunderers as a smokescreen while eliminating survivors and obtaining the Cross of a Saint artifact. Though unsure of their precise plan, Tae Hoon believed a conspiracy was afoot. Determined to address matters before they escalated, he directed Zhu Jilin to return to Bucheon City and assemble all the Mac Guild troops in the area. When Zhu Jilin left to bring the Mac clan troops, Tae Hoon found himself in a battle with a horse figure-type earthenware artifact. He wanted to understand its abilities, so he fought against the spirit within the artifact. Surprisingly, the spirit put up a good fight, matching Tae Hoon's strength. Although Tae Hoon had gotten stronger since his last encounter, his special abilities remained unchanged. Eventually, the spirit disappeared because its power was limited by the mana infused into it. Tae Hoon realized that the artifact's combat power was similar to a level 3 entity, but it was much more agile. Sadly, he could only use it for a maximum of 5 minutes due to his current mana level. This reminded Tae Hoon of what the surviving soldier had told him earlier. This artifact could be valuable for stalling against a green-grade monster. While the earthenware doll held off the monster, Major Osibum took advantage of its blind spot and successfully defeated it. The rescue team had 2 artifacts, a horse figure-type earthenware and the golden cap of Gold Crown Tomb. Unfortunately, the golden cap of Gold Crown Tomb has been lost to traitors. The people of Incheon City were worried, and the Mac clan troops were also present. Kim Soo updated Tae Hoon that a total of 134 hunters, 466 soldiers, and 100 others, making 700 people in total, had safely arrived. Tae Hoon informed everyone that their next goal was to eliminate the monsters. He gathered everyone in the conference room and outlined the plan. He explained that they would execute the Incheon landing operation, using whatever means and methods necessary to rid the area of monsters. And so, the operation began. In Incheon 20 High School, around 50 level 1 monsters were lurking. 10 soldiers and 6 hunters initiated the attack by tossing smoke grenades inside. Over at the 20 apartment, there were hundreds of level 1 monsters and 2 level 2 monsters. Hyun-wook, Young-young, and Zhu Jilin led a team of 30 soldiers to handle these foes. Hyun-wook and Zhu Jilin swiftly dealt with the level 2 monsters, while even the new member, Young-jun, managed to eliminate one with ease. In Incheon Terminal, there were 50 level 1 monsters and 2 level 2 monsters. Kim Soo, Konglin, and Lee Soo were joined by 10 soldiers and armed with claymores. Kim Soo's improved skills were evident as she took down a level 2 monster effortlessly. Lee Soo also succeeded in defeating one, and Konglin faced multiple level 1 monsters without complaints. Lastly, near 20 Park, there was a level 3 monster, 3 level 2 monsters, and 100 level 1 monsters. Tae Hoon himself intervened to confront this formidable challenge, utilizing the horse figure-type earthenware artifact. Tae Hoon commanded the attention of the level 3 monster. He instructed the spirit within the artifact to unleash its power freely for a 5-minute window, although the exact duration was uncertain. The monsters charged at Tae Hoon and the spirit, but the spirit effortlessly dispatched numerous level 1 creatures before showcasing its slashing skills. Tae Hoon, brandishing his sword, lunged at the level 3 monster. Yet, the monster evaded his initial attack and created some distance. Tae Hoon skillfully employed the rattle-tailed mouse's hearing skill to track its movements. As the monster prepared to launch an attack, Tae Hoon countered with the flame spitter skill, engulfing the creature in flames. Swiftly, Tae Hoon closed the gap, slashing the monster in half with a single strike. Meanwhile, the spirit doll triumphed over the 3 level 2 monsters and the 100 level 1 monsters. When the fight concluded, the Mac clan assembled atop the city hall to announce their victory over the monsters. The residents of Incheon City were overjoyed by this news. Tae Hoon took the opportunity to declare that from that day forward, Incheon City Hall was under the jurisdiction of the Mac Guild. Turning to his team, he revealed their next destination, Yeongjong Island, the location where the towering green-eyed devil had been discovered. Colonel Yudi arrived in Incheon City, where he met up with Tae Hoon, Zhu Jilin, and Konglin. They shared concerning news with him. There was a traitor within their team. Yudi quickly explained that even within the Capital Defense Command, traitors existed. They had managed to steal the Didingo-Jido map artifact. Moreover, soldiers holding numerous national treasures were at risk of being robbed. Zhu Jilin confirmed this. Even though she didn't know the exact method they used, she was certain traitors were involved. She also mentioned Sergeant Park Two-sun's testimony. Yudi began to think deeply. He saw Incheon as a treacherous trap set by these traitors. He speculated that the information provided by the Major might have been a ploy to eliminate the rescue team. His thoughts continued to unravel, suggesting that even Major General Lee Kai-soo could be involved in this betrayal. This led Yudi to consider that the current head of the military police might also be a traitor, possibly a close associate of Lee Kai-soo. As he thought further, he connected the dots. The military police's responsibility included safeguarding VIPs. He wondered if something sinister had befallen these important figures. With the meeting concluded, Yudi bid his farewells to the group. As he made his way back, he couldn't help but reflect on the unexpected speed at which Tae Hoon had taken control of Incheon. He also considered the presence of a liquefied natural gas production base in Songdo, Incheon. With the reduced number of survivors, the stockpile at the base could last for several months. Yudi realized that Tae Hoon needed to be aware of this resource. Continuing his thoughts, Yudi contemplated a possible future where gas imports from overseas might become feasible. In such a scenario, the Songdo liquefied natural gas production base would hold significant importance for Korea. This realization transformed the Mac Guild from a small threatening group into a potential danger for others. Yudi's thoughts shifted back to Tae Hoon's words during their meeting. Tae Hoon had advised Yudi to leave the traders alone, as solid evidence was lacking, and even if it existed, it couldn't be disclosed immediately. The fact that Yudi had been unaware of the traders' presence indicated that someone in a higher position was secretly collaborating with them. Tae Hoon then posed a question: had Yudi ever witnessed a whistleblower succeeding within the Ministry of Defense of Korea? Or, on the contrary, had he seen an unethical general facing consequences? Yudi's response was a recognition that Tae Hoon was asking him to put his life on the line. Yudi found himself in a difficult situation. Not knowing who was right and who was wrong, he struggled with the path he should take. At Namsan Tower, there were soldiers there possessing the artifact the Sun Tzu Bai of King Jinhyung. Inside the tower, Major General Lee Kai-soo talking with the head of the military police Jang So-guk. Notably, these two are one of the traders according to Yudi's touts. Lee told Jang that he didn't know there would be a problem like this in Incheon City. Jang responded by asking if that would be a big problem. He kept going, regardless of whether Tae Hoon belonged to a special forces unit. That's just something people talk about at the office. What could someone who's never experienced warfare really do? Lee remarked that this wasn't his intention, but going this route might jeopardize our plans in Incheon City. So, he inquired with Young about his opinion. Young replied, if you're bothered by the Mac Guild, you could entice the monster from Yongjeon Island to come to downtown Incheon. It would handle them for us. Lee brought up a question. Could a man named Tae Hoon possibly defeat a green-grade monster? Young replied with a definite no, explaining that due to the present situation, not even regular vehicles can enter Yongjeon Island, let alone tanks. He continued, saying he believed we'd need a powerful B-2 bomber to turn the island into scorched land if we aimed to eliminate the monster. Young offered to handle Tae Hoon if Lee was concerned. Lee suggested that if we had the resources, it might be wiser to send our men to Pocheon instead of Incheon City. Then, he inquired about the current status of the 8th Division. Young informed him that they were swiftly integrating troops on the front lines and predicted they would soon reach Gangwon Province. Lee brought up Colonel Lim Hyun-jun, suggesting that things would run smoothly if they joined forces with him. Young countered, explaining that while Colonel Lim is interested in joining, the conditions are quite challenging. Soon, another person arrived behind them. Young questioned the newcomer about their presence. It turned out to be Osibum, who explained that he was there to deliver a letter from Mr. Mao. This revelation confirmed that Osibum was a traitor, as he was working for both sides. Meanwhile, on a small boat, Tae Hoon suited up in a diving suit and entered the water. He began recalling the plan with his team. They advised him that even though there were no sea monsters, going in alone was too risky. Kim Soo chimed in, reminding everyone that Yongjeongdo had once been 4 separate islands that were combined through land reclamation. This meant that the Didingo-Jito artifact they possessed couldn't provide a clear picture of Yongjeongdo. Additionally, the Yongjeong Bridge had collapsed. The only remaining passage was the Incheon Bridge, which stretched 21 kilometers. The challenge was that they couldn't determine the number of monsters on that bridge. Sun Hoon proposed a strategy. They could destroy the Incheon Bridge while trapping the monster on Yongjeongdo. However, Lee Soo raised a valid point, mentioning that without the bridge, refugees would struggle to travel between cities. She also raised concerns about whether the monster could potentially cross the sea. In response, Tae Hoon instructed Kim Soo and Hyun-wook to lead a group of 100 awakened individuals to guard the Incheon Bridge. He emphasized that if he hadn't returned within 4 days, they should retreat immediately. Returning to the current events, Tae Hoon reached Yongjeong Island by diving through the sea. After emerging, he shed the diving suit and readied his equipment, the Imperator sword and the PSG-1 sniper rifle. Notably, this PSG-1 sniper rifle held a special place in the hearts of snipers worldwide, and was more familiar to Tae Hoon than any other weapon he had used. It was like a steadfast partner, ready to face the challenges alongside him when confronting a stronger adversary. Tae Hoon remarked that it had been a while since he last employed this gun, signaling the beginning of the hunt. It's important to note that Tae Hoon's strength and health had significantly improved since his previous encounter. Venturing further into Yongjeong Island, Tae Hoon silently perched on a dilapidated building, keeping a close watch on the movements of the menacing monsters below. Among them stood the formidable green-eyed devil, a creature of green-grade strength. Tae Hoon readied his trusty sniper rifle, realizing that even though he couldn't accurately aim from such a distance, he could employ telekinesis to propel bullets towards his targets. He began firing at the monsters, each shot taking down multiple foes. The green-eyed devil couldn't help but notice its companions falling around it. After 4 days of relentless battle, Tae Hoon had managed to eliminate 47 level 2 monsters and 89 level 1 monsters. While his efficiency was not the greatest, it was clear that fear had gripped these creatures long ago. Now, Tae Hoon decided to get closer to the formidable green-eyed devil. As he closed the distance, the monster grew increasingly agitated, letting out deafening roars. It crushed one of its fellow monsters and devoured it before turning its destructive fury towards the crumbling buildings nearby. In a sudden move, Tae Hoon summoned the spirit doll from his earthenware artifact. The spirit charged at the green-eyed devil, drawing its attention away from Tae Hoon. However, this spirited confrontation was merely a distraction, allowing Tae Hoon the opportunity he needed to bring down the fearsome monster. As the spirit doll engaged in battle with the monstrous green-eyed devil, Tae Hoon continued to shoot at the creature. The spirit doll relentlessly slashed at the monster, and this coordinated attack went on until the monster grew furious. In a fit of rage, the green-eyed devil leaped into the air, brandishing its enormous axe, aiming to strike the spirit doll. Seizing this opportunity, Tae Hoon vaulted over the nearby buildings, aiming to attack the monster from behind. With a sly grin, he taunted the creature, "Level 4 double-headed ogres eat humans and other monsters. But here's a thought, have you ever considered eating your other head? Well, don't worry, I'll send you straight to hell." Tae Hoon successfully plunged his weapon into the back of the monster's head. Meanwhile, at the entrance of the Yongjong Island Bridge, the Mac Guild, except for non-combatant members, stood guard as part of their plan. If Tae Hoon didn't appear before them on the 4th day, their strategy was to retreat. They were left wondering what had happened to Tae Hoon. Even more concerning was the fact that the green-eyed devil had not disappeared from the Didingo map artifact. Zhu Jilin addressed the group, informing them that there was 1 green grade, 50 orange grade, and 100 red grade monsters marked on the map. She passionately urged them to take action, emphasizing that even the high-ranking awakeners from the previous army had needed countless national treasures to barely defeat a green-level monster. Continuing her speech, Zhu Jilin stressed that even if it were Tae Hoon, he might not be able to return alive this time, given the green-eyed devil's increased power compared to the previous one. Kim Soo pointed out that their participation in this mission was voluntary, but soldiers were meant to follow orders from their superiors. She encouraged Zhu Jilin to trust Tae Hoon more. Hyeon-wook, Lee Soo, and Yang Young agreed with Kim Soo's sentiment. Kim Soo expressed frustration that all they could do at this moment was wait. Returning to Tae Hoon, who had managed to stab his sword into the monster's head, he struggled to penetrate further. His sword was stuck, and the monster's body was even tougher than he had anticipated. The monster attempted to grab Tae Hoon as he jumped into the air, but he swiftly evaded by spinning. Tae Hoon safely landed on the ground, the monster now in a fit of rage. The spirit doll vanished as its time limit expired, leaving Tae Hoon to face the level 4 monster alone. He commented, "Seems like the injury on your back isn't enough to stop you. While I'd rather not engage you head-on, I have no choice now." Tae Hoon continued, "Let's consider that wound on your back as compensation for our size difference." Tapping into his telekinesis skill, Tae Hoon controlled multiple rocks, hurling them at the monster. However, the attack proved ineffective as the monster countered with a ground-shaking hand strike. Tae Hoon managed to evade the attack and unleashed a fiery assault on the monster using his Flamespitter skill, setting it ablaze. Tae Hoon dashed toward the burning monster, dodging its kick attack mid-air. He employed his black skin ability to punch the monster's leg and then leaped to deliver a powerful kick to its face. The monster retaliated, pushing Tae Hoon back, but he blocked the attack. Gathering force in his limbs, Tae Hoon accelerated toward the monster at high speed. As the monster attempted an aerial attack, Tae Hoon dodged it and combined his black skin with the black eye snake skill. Empowering his hand with telekinetic force, he struck the back of the monster's head, causing it to crash to the ground. With the monster pinned down, Tae Hoon retrieved his sword and uttered his final words, "It's time for you to meet your end." The team guarding the bridge entrance noticed that the green dot representing the green monster had disappeared from their tracking system. This indicated that Tae Hoon had emerged victorious against the monster. Their spirits soared with excitement upon hearing this news. Later on, they returned to the city hall, where they were warmly welcomed by the remaining guild members. Sung-hoon praised Tae Hoon for his remarkable victory. Meanwhile, Zhu Jilin found herself deep in thought. She pondered the profound implications of Tae Hoon's absence. Without him, she questioned whether the people in their community could survive. Notably, not only had he taken down ordinary people but also monsters so powerful that even seasoned awakeners would hesitate to challenge them. She mused that even if she were better than Tae Hoon, she wouldn't dare confront such a formidable monster. Continuing her contemplation, Zhu Jilin considered that Tae Hoon's strength might be linked to his extensive use of the magic crystals, which he had collected to enhance his body and weapons. This might explain why his awakening was far stronger than the average awakener. Zhu Jilin then raised a critical concern about those with powers similar to Tae Hoon or just as formidable. She noted that members of the Tatter Guild, like the Mac clan, could handle level 2 monsters on their own. She questioned what would happen if someone possessed Tae Hoon's strength or was even more powerful. It was estimated that such an individual could monopolize all the magic crystals, potentially making them even more dangerous than the monsters. After all, people with such immense power might be beyond reason and control. Tae Hoon gathered the team and gave them clear instructions. He directed them to bring some people to Daechuan Airport, where Douglas Kennedy's daughter was located. Just as they had done in Yangchuan City, he advised setting up the survivors in the city hall and reinforcing the fortifications, with the awakened individuals serving as the main defenders. Tae Hoon stressed that while they could use the map to monitor the movements of the monsters, it was still challenging to fully understand the situation in the area. He specifically instructed Ju Jilan and Kong Lin to report any sightings of monsters to him immediately. Before retiring to his room, Tae Hoon added an important note. He appointed Kim Soo, the ensign, to oversee the entire Tatter Guild, emphasizing that Kim Soo would manage the guild's affairs. Ju Jilan couldn't help but reflect on Tae Hoon's actions. It seemed as though he had already experienced these situations in the future, enabling him to address challenges swiftly and move on to the next task. She continued to contemplate Tae Hoon's behavior, noting that despite his courageous forward progress, he always seemed to be preparing for something in advance and hoped that the other players would rapidly develop their skills, as if anticipating future challenges. Later at Daechuan International Airport, Tae Hoon, along with the deputy chairpersons Ju Jilan and Kong Lin, gathered there. It was a fortunate coincidence that the Golden Cup had become full shortly after they entered the airport. Luckily, there were only a few people around at the time. Taking advantage of the moment, Tae Hoon used the Golden Cup to glimpse into the future. After his vision of the future, he compiled vital information in a list he called the List of Last Wish. This list revealed that 3 crucial events needed to occur to alter their fate. First, they had to prevent the plan to kill Ren Xianfeng. Second, someone named Zhao Ying had to die, and this individual must be elected as the leader. Lastly, the plan for a meltdown at the Futane nuclear power station needed to be stopped. Hyan Wook commented that after dreaming about the future, things should have improved, but instead, they seemed to be deteriorating. Sun Mai questioned who Zhao Ying was and why they should prevent others from killing him and elect him as their leader. Yang Yung raised concerns about the nuclear power plant meltdown happening after dealing with the dragon. He questioned whether the nuclear power plant would be activated. Li Su chimed in, stating that they had to stop this from happening, or everything would be at risk. Tae Hoon turned to Kong Lin and asked for an explanation of what a core meltdown actually was. Kong Lin began to explain that a core meltdown occurs when a part of the nuclear energy reactor, responsible for atomic splitting, accidentally overheats. This overheating leads to the melting of fuel elements and other components within the reactor. He went on to describe that a core meltdown can be roughly divided into 3 stages. First is the reactor meltdown, followed by the escalation of the situation where the containment of fuel rods begins to melt through. Finally, the melted nuclear fuel can leak into the surrounding area, resulting in a catastrophic disaster. Hyan Wook couldn't resist interjecting, remarking, "Only God knows how knowledgeable you are." Ju Jilan added that there were tutorials on nuclear power plants and special forces training because such facilities were prime targets for terrorists. Destroying a nuclear power plant could lead to significant and devastating consequences. Sung Hoon added a concerning point. If the containment was melted through or if nuclear fuel leaked, the boss had already made it clear that it would be a grave problem. Kim Soo pointed out that, for now, they needed to focus on preventing these disasters from happening. Tae Hoon then asked Sung Hoon what he had been told during his first dream. Sung Hoon responded that he had been instructed to go to Jingfeng City. Tae Hoon further explained that the Fusion nuclear power station was located kilometers away from Jingfeng City. He emphasized that if the nuclear power station were to leak, Jingfeng City would become highly dangerous and could no longer serve as a stronghold. In essence, when Tae Hoon had died in his dream, the Fusion nuclear power station had not yet experienced a meltdown. Sun Mai suggested another possibility, that someone might be deliberately causing or planning to cause this situation. Li Su agreed, stating that while the possibility of a monster's involvement was high, it was more appropriate to consider the possibility of human interference. Sung Hoon questioned who would be so heartless as to do this. He emphasized that if the nuclear power plant exploded, not even they would survive, nor would any bacteria. Tae Hoon answered with a chilling word, six-headed snake. Yang Yung suggested that the mysterious entity known as Six-Headed Snake might be jealous of their boss and driven by resentment. This might explain why they unleashed the dangerous Pandora's box that was the Fusion nuclear power station. Sung Hoon questioned whether Six-Headed Snake was merely trying to intimidate them. Tae Hoon expressed his primary concern, which was the presence of bombers that he had seen in his dream before dying. Kim Soo, Li Su, and Kong Lin were alarmed when they heard the mention of bombers. They asked why anyone would bring bombers into their country. Hyan Wook, not fully comprehending the gravity of the situation, asked for an explanation. Kong Lin clarified that usually, only powerful countries possess strategic bombers. Tae Hoon firmly stated that he had to prevent this from happening, or their land would be devastated. He emphasized the need to thwart the assassination attempt on Colonel Ren Xianfeng. Ju Jilan, seeking clarification, asked why there would be an assassination attempt on the colonel. Just then, 2 soldiers entered the meeting room, accompanied by a girl. This girl was the sole survivor from the airport incident. Hyan Wook inquired about the situation, and the soldiers apologized for their intrusion. Kim Soo asked the soldiers what was happening, and one of them explained that the girl had insisted on meeting their boss. They had brought her over to the meeting. The blonde girl, who caught the attention of Sung Hoon and Sun Mai due to being a foreigner, apologized, taking responsibility for the situation. It became clear that she was the same girl Colonel Yudi had tasked Tae Hoon with rescuing, the daughter of Douglas Kennedy, Kaid. Kaid then asked if Tae Hoon was their leader, leaving Tae Hoon to ponder that she might be a powerful awakener. The scene shifted to Colonel Yudi, who was en route to meet with Tae Hoon. Along the way, Yudi found himself contemplating the unexpected rise of Yi Rong, also known as Tae Hoon. He reflected on how the Capital Defense Army had used numerous heavy weapons and their military elite, Kinhu, to combat the monsters, but they had failed. Surprisingly, Yi Rong had managed to achieve it single-handedly. Yudi acknowledged that it was challenging for them to reach their current location because the Capital Defense Army was primarily concentrated in the Huebei district. This situation was further complicated by the collapse of most of the bridges in Haicheng. The presence of monsters in the area had also posed significant challenges. Additionally, Colonel Ren, who held considerable military power, appeared to be causing internal divisions. Yudi continued to reflect, thinking that he had believed Major Yi Rong's name would never come to prominence. Yudi eventually arrived at Tae Hoon's location for their meeting. Tae Hoon informed Yudi that he had found Kaid but didn't want to disclose this to the Capital Defense Army. He also requested Yudi's assistance in arranging a meeting with Colonel Ren. Yudi responded, questioning Tae Hoon's faith in the Capital Defense Army and his desire to seek external help. He suggested that if he were in Tae Hoon's shoes, he might have made the same choice. Yudi then inquired about Tae Hoon's next plan. Tae Hoon revealed that he was headed to Fusion City. Yudi couldn't help but tease him, asking if he was trying to become a prophet. He pointed out that, even in the army, only the participants knew the truth. Yudi warned Tae Hoon to remember the danger of the mission, noting that he had sent many men before, and none had returned alive. Tae Hoon reassured Yudi, telling him not to worry. His immediate concern was to meet with Colonel Ren within June or at the latest, July, not to mention that his attributes had become stronger than before, along with the rank of his abilities. Additionally, he had gained a special effect from absorbing the magical core of the two-headed ogre. Later on, Tae Hoon returned to headquarters. After making some preparations, he and Kaid embarked on their next objective. Before we proceed further, please note the following name changes. Instead of Fusion City, it is now Bio City. The daughter of Douglas Kennedy, Kaid, is now referred to as Kate. While Tae Hoon and Kate were on their way, they encountered a horde of monsters blocking their path. Tae Hoon, who was driving, used his telekinesis ability to take control of multiple cars on the street. He directed these cars to smash into the monsters, clearing their way. Kate was left speechless witnessing this display of power. Kate began to recall what had happened at the headquarters. Tae Hoon had decided to make her his hostage, and she would be accompanying him to Bio. The entire team was shocked by this decision. Kate remarked that it seemed she wouldn't be able to reach the Capital Defense Army station where her father was, at least for the time being. Tae Hoon responded, saying, "You're our bargaining chip, after all." Hyun Wook inquired about the sudden decision to head to Bio, and Sung Hoon asked if Tae Hoon was planning to acquire the incense burner at the National Bio Museum. Tae Hoon confirmed that this was his intention and added that it would be safer for Kate to stay with him for the time being. He then addressed Kate, stating that she was free to try and escape if she wished, but he couldn't guarantee her safety if she did so. Later, Tae Hoon gave Kate a knife and a gun, and they began practicing. Using her knife, Kate attacked Tae Hoon with several strikes, but he skillfully defended against all of her attacks. Then, she grabbed her gun and started shooting the goblin monsters that had surrounded them. With her sword, she swiftly finished off the remaining monsters. Tae Hoon watched her closely and remarked, "Even though you're not a pro, it seems like you've had some decent training." Kate's stats were impressive with an in strength, a power level of 15, and a stamina rating of 10. Her strength was comparable to that of a second lieutenant with a strength rating of 100. Her combat experience was also quite good. Tae Hoon collected magical orbs from the defeated monsters and told Kate, "These orbs have incredible effects." He ordered her to consume all of them. Back in the present, Kate kept her eyes on Tae Hoon. She didn't have much to say. Suddenly, Tae Hoon stopped the car. Confused, Kate asked, "What's wrong?" Tae Hoon pointed out something about 4 kilometers away. He told her that someone was in trouble and dying. Kate was amazed at his keen senses. Even though there was no sound, he could sense danger from afar. 4 kilometers away, a man was being chased by bandits. One of the bandits managed to stab the fleeing man. Another bandit suggested it would have been easier to just shoot him, given the distance they had run. The one who had stabbed the man replied that they were bored and wanted some fun. He then grabbed his spear and finished off the wounded man. Suddenly, Tae Hoon appeared behind the bandits and swiftly killed them all. After dealing with them, Tae Hoon began searching their bodies. He found a Gandal sword, a relic-grade weapon rated at level 3 with a rare relic value. The sword had a special effect. When activated, it could create a sharp blade, the strength of which depended on the user's energy rank. Tae Hoon commented that, based on information from Jang Seong, dozens of black stone swords were stored in the Bio Museum. The Capital Defense Army had sent many personnel to recover them, but all attempts had failed. Tae Hoon suspected that the nearby 20 Training Center and Bio Museum might not yet be occupied by monsters, indicating that the traders who had stolen the artifacts from the Capital Defense Army might be nearby. Kate held onto the dying man, asking if he was still alive. Tae Hoon sadly informed her that he had lost too much blood and was beyond saving. As the man took his last breath, he pleaded with them to save his wife and daughter. He also warned them to be cautious of the Messiah who could create monsters. With those words, the man passed away. Frustrated and disheartened, Kate turned to Tae Hoon and asked, "What's wrong with your people? Why are you all fighting each other instead of coming together to fight the monsters?" Tae Hoon replied, "Before the world ended, humans had been at odds with each other for a long time. This kind of conflict isn't unique to any country." He continued, "I'm no different from them." In Bio City, inside the athletics field, a large group of bandits was busy with their guns and boxes of weapons, possibly even artifacts. Tae Hoon stood on a tree branch, carefully watching them. He commented to himself, "This operation is much bigger than those guys I encountered earlier." Tae Hoon recalled what had happened before he arrived here. While he and Kate were on the move, a group of people had been tailing them. Tae Hoon decided to confront them and demanded to know why they were following. He made it clear that he wouldn't hesitate to eliminate them. One of the people explained that they were in hostile relations with the Messiah, the group of bandits. Another person chimed in, saying they had seen Tae Hoon easily overpower the bandits and wanted his help. Tae Hoon responded sternly, "I'm not here to save you, but I will deal with them my own way." However, he agreed to listen to their information. The people began sharing what they knew. The Messiah was a cult organization with 4 levels: the leader, the guardians who served the leader, believers with stigmata, and ordinary people living as slaves. The escaped individuals fell into the last category. The cult often subjected women to terrible acts, and any sign of resistance was brutally crushed on the spot. The leader possessed a significant artifact, a large incense burner that could summon a beast even more terrifying than monsters. Furthermore, nearby army personnel and those with stigmata on their hands became followers of the leader. The group realized that their strength alone wouldn't be enough to resist the Messiah. Desperate, they turned to Tae Hoon for help. Tae Hoon pondered the situation, realizing that it wouldn't be easy to destroy them outright. If he didn't annihilate them completely, there would be ongoing troubles. Time was ticking, and Tae Hoon needed to come up with a better plan. Later that night, the Messiah group was camping when a car approached. Panic erupted as they shouted, "Messiah! Lord Messiah!" The commotion ceased abruptly when a woman stepped out of the car. She was unmistakably the Messiah group's leader. She demanded to know what had happened and warned, "If this isn't something significant, I won't spare any of you." Her followers quickly informed her of the situation. A sudden revolt had erupted in Bio, and several groups had already been wiped out. The insurgents were well armed, and the news reported that their leader was a woman with yellow hair, who happened to be Kate. The Messiah leader gathered her followers, and they began demolishing the buildings where Tae Hoon and the people seeking help were located. The Messiah's group armed themselves and advanced while assaulting. Meanwhile, the Messiah leader remained seated in her chair, accompanied by her guardians. One of the guardians remarked that the rebels seemed reluctant to resist, suggesting there might be no need to gather more troops. In response, the Messiah leader explained that this was about setting an example for those who dared to challenge her authority, like a bunch of defiant ants. As the Messiah's followers approached the demolished buildings, they were surprised. Despite the explosions, there was an eerie silence, and not a single dead person was in sight. Confusion washed over them. Tae Hoon, observing the Messiah leader, recalled the plan he had shared with the people seeking his help. He had informed them that the infidels were the most significant threat to religious groups and reassured them that he had already taken care of them. He explained that their leaders would likely take matters into their own hands. Then, he outlined the plan to his group, emphasizing that since they were new to combat, they should engage from a safe distance to cause confusion and then retreat to their designated hiding spots when the enemies got close. The people were taken aback, realizing that Tae Hoon intended to face the enemies alone. He assured them that he could hold them off for about 10 minutes, and that was the strategy. Back in the present, one of the Messiah's followers returned to report to their leader. They couldn't find any dead bodies, but they did encounter a strange man on horseback. This man on horseback turned out to be the spirit embodied within the earthenware artifact. The spirit proved formidable, defeating many of the Messiah's followers before confronting the Messiah leader herself. In response, the Messiah leader used the incense burner artifact to summon a golden dragon, a golden tiger, and a golden phoenix. She commented on the spirit's arrogance but believed that this toy alone couldn't defeat her. She then ordered her people to locate the one controlling the spirit. Suddenly, a powerful impact occurred, and Tae Hoon emerged from it. The Messiah leader questioned Tae Hoon, asking if he was the leader of the rebels. She expressed her disbelief at his recklessness for walking into their trap. Meanwhile, at Namsan Tower, Capital Defense Army and their leaders were present. On the ground lay the head of the monster twin-head ogre, which Tae Hoon had defeated. Lieutenant General Lee Hyuk, the commander of the Capital Defense, inquired about the monster's name. Brigadier General Yoon Seok-young, the commander of the Military Capital Command, responded that it was called the twin-head ogre, classified as a green-grade monster. Major General Lee Kai-soo, the head of the investigation department at the Ministry of Defense, remarked that there wasn't much difference when compared to the white high-footed spider they had previously eliminated. Yoon Seok turned to O.C. Bum and asked for his opinion. O.C. Bum agreed, stating that there wasn't much of a distinction between the two. Then, Lee Hyuk commented, I should have sent O.C. Bum there, but I gave him a chance, which got me into trouble. Yoon Seok Young chimed in, saying, it's just a hound, you know. You can throw it away after using it. I believe Colonel Lim Hyun-jun's unit is more urgent. Lee Hyuk pointed out, is that so? I didn't expect the Capital Defense Command would bring us such disgrace. O.C. Bum then turned to Major General Lee Kai-soo and inquired about where they planned to get rid of Tae Hoon. Kai-soo responded, now isn't the time to worry about Tae Hoon. If we don't handle the Hyun-jun unit right away, Seoul will be in danger. The road from Gangnam to Gangbuk is blocked, but there are other routes from the front line to Gangbuk. Not only their forces, but the power of the 8th Mechanized Infantry Division is sufficient to threaten Seoul. Kai-soo continued, of course, this matter has nothing to do with O.C. Bum, since Dr. Mao mentioned in his letter that he would soon provide us with some relics. O.C. Bum inquired about the type of relics, and Kai-soo replied, it's Okryong Mungakbi. Dr. Mao said he would send another batch, and sooner or later the bird will fly, and you'll retrieve them. O.C. Bum then asked Kai-soo about what he should do regarding Tae Hoon's team. Kai-soo told him, do whatever you want. With a eerie smile, O.C. Bum responded, I understand. Meanwhile, at the Mac Guild, Sung Hoon called for an urgent meeting. Members gathered, curious about the reason. Sung Hoon began by apologizing for the sudden assembly but asked everyone to focus on something critical. He pointed to a blue dot on their Diding-Yojido map artifact, indicating a level 5 monster. Sung Hoon explained that this monster had been in Sejong City for some time but was now rapidly moving from Cheonan to Pyeongtaek and from Osan to Suwon City. In simpler terms, there was a high chance it would come to their location. Yang Yung raised concerns, asking, what do you mean by level 5? We struggle with level 3 monsters. Lee Soo added, even if the boss were here, it would still be a life and death battle. We're in trouble. Kong Lin chimed in, a blue-grade monster, one the Capital Defense Force hasn't even faced head-on yet. Kim Soo then asked the crucial question, what are we going to do? We can't keep relying on him, can we? Returning to Tae Hoon, who stood on equal footing with the monsters from the incense burner artifact, along with the spirit, the Messiah leader realized that even her guardians, which meant the Awakeners, couldn't withstand Tae Hoon's power. Amidst the battle, Tae Hoon attempted to use his skill Flamespitter to launch a fiery attack at the Messiah leader. However, the attack didn't reach her. Tae Hoon then employed his Black Snake Eye skill to unveil the truth, discovering that the leader possessed an artifact providing protection. As Tae Hoon closed the distance, the Messiah leader hurled a flashbang at him, anticipating that he would be temporarily blinded. To her astonishment, Tae Hoon swiftly moved behind her and brought her down with a resounding slap. She dropped her incense burner. Raising her head, the Messiah leader challenged Tae Hoon, asking if he knew who she was and whether he feared God's wrath. Tae Hoon responded, if you believe in God, you must follow in his footsteps and contemplate what he intended humanity to be, rather than wielding his power. Also, don't forget to ask him why he allowed the world to become this way and created individuals like you. He continued, if your conscience is still intact, raising his sword, redeem yourself for the sins of those you have killed. Amen. With those words, Tae Hoon executed her. After all the members of the Messiah's group passed away, Tae Hoon acquired 2 new artifacts. The first one is the Gilt Bronze Incense Burner of Beach. It's a level 1 artifact with a normal value. This artifact has a unique power. It can summon a creature made of smoke. The type of creature you can summon depends on the color of the monster stones you've consumed. The second artifact is the Gilt Bronze Evolokite Svarabodhisattva statue. This one is a level 2 artifact with a rare value. Its special power is to protect the owner and quickly restore them to their optimal condition. Holding the incense burner artifact, Tae Hoon commented that if the leader of the Messiah had specialized in hunting, the outcome would have been different. This artifact alone enables you to hunt level 3 monsters. He continued by saying that it was definitely worth adding this to the wish list. Kate expressed her sadness and asked Tae Hoon, do we really have to go through with this? She continued, with your power, you don't have to take everyone's life, do you? Isn't it fair to give them a chance to reflect? There are even poor people forced to join them. Is an eye for an eye your idea of justice? Who gives you the right to decide if someone lives or dies? Tae Hoon responded, justice doesn't matter. Even if you don't want me to kill, they've done enough to warrant their fate. Looting, rape, murder, robbery. He went on, don't misunderstand me. I'm not here to judge you, but I removed them because they pose potential threats. The world we live in has changed. It's become a kill or be killed environment. It's better to eliminate the threats than to risk myself, my companions, and my men for the sake of mercy and compassion. After the Messiah incident, Tae Hoon and Kate were on their way to their next destination. Tae Hoon had a mission in mind, to eliminate the level 5 monster in Sejong City. He explained to Kate that leaving such a powerful monster alive in the Chungcheong region posed a significant threat. If it managed to reach the south of Gyeonggi-do, an all-out battle with it would become inevitable. As they journeyed, Tae Hoon suddenly heard the sound of gunshots using his rattle-tailed mouse's hearing skill. He wondered if there were other monsters in the area. It was at that moment when he realized that the level 5 monster was no longer present. This monster was the same one that had been moving toward Tae Hoon's team and their headquarters. In Sejong's special city, Tae Hoon rushed towards the source of the gunshots at high speed. Meanwhile, nearby, two men from the Mac Guild found themselves surrounded by multiple monsters, including a high-grade monster. One of them commented that they were running out of bullets, and all their teammates had been killed. The worst part was that the high-grade monster was closing in on them. The other man said that it wasn't over yet, and one of them had to survive to deliver a letter to their master, who happened to be Tae Hoon. Just as the monster started snarling, one of the men grabbed a grenade and pulled the safety pin, intending to sacrifice himself along with the monsters. But in that critical moment, Tae Hoon arrived and used his telekinesis skill to prevent the man from taking his own life. Without wasting any more time, Tae Hoon launched a high-speed attack on the high-grade monster. The monster couldn't even complete its attack, and Tae Hoon's strike sliced the monster in half, with such force that it even shattered the ground beneath them. After dealing with the other monsters, Tae Hoon retrieved the letter that Sung Hoon had sent him. In the letter, Sung Hoon informed him that the blue-grade monster in Sejong City was rapidly heading towards Bucheon City. They had already begun evacuating to Yeongjong Island. Sung Hoon added a note, suggesting that he believed someone had intentionally led the monster to their location. The name Six Snakes immediately crossed Tae Hoon's mind. One of the messengers then informed Tae Hoon that initially, they were divided into 10 teams, but only 2 of them had survived. The other man mentioned that Instructor Kim Soo and other senior officers were preparing to resist the level 5 monster's attack. Tae Hoon began to contemplate the situation. He suspected that the 6 snakes had used new relics to attract the level 5 monster's attention. It seemed like they possessed the original edition of the Didingoji map artifact. If that were the case, the 6 snakes would have used it in the past. But they hadn't. This led Tae Hoon to believe that there was a group providing relics to them. He continued to reflect on the fact that the rest of the team had left days ago, and the level 5 monster had arrived in Bucheon 2 days prior. That place was likely a disaster by now. If the 6 snakes' goal was to destroy the Mac Guild, they wouldn't have allowed them to retreat to Yeongjong Island. Tae Hoon's anger flared, and he ignited his hand, declaring, "No, we can't give up yet. I'll make them pay for blood with blood." At Incheonport, Sung Hoon was helping the members of their Mac clan board a large ship for evacuation. As they were doing this, he suddenly recalled an event that had occurred just a few moments ago. Tae Hoon had already instructed his team to position awakeners near the Incheon Bridge. While Sung Hoon and the others were gathered, a guard approached them with some shocking news. He informed them that all of the awakeners near Incheon Bridge had tragically lost their lives, and the bridge itself had been destroyed. The team was under immense pressure as a level 5 monster was approaching, and 6 snake awakeners were right behind them. Kim Soo, the second lieutenant, gave the order to prepare for a battle against the level 5 monster. Sung Hoon intervened, questioning what she meant by a battle. Given that they couldn't defeat such a powerful monster, it could annihilate them in an instant. Kim Soo inquired if he had a better plan and pointed out the dire situation. There was danger in front of them and behind them, and they couldn't ensure the safety of all the clan's citizens no matter where they went. Realizing the gravity of the situation, everyone fell silent. Kim Soo was correct. If they didn't stay and delay the monster, the citizens of the Mac clan would be in grave danger. She ordered them to gather awakeners who could fight and deploy heavy firepower. She reiterated that their objective wasn't to defeat the monster but to buy time until Sung Hoon and Sun Mai could evacuate the citizens. Hyeon Wook chimed in, acknowledging why their leader, Hyeon Nim, had put Kim Soo in charge. Sun Mai offered to join the fight instead of helping Sung Hoon, stating that medical personnel were essential, and she possessed the highest magical abilities among them. Sung Hoon added his hope that the message he had sent through the team would soon reach their master, as that was the whole plan. Later on, the level 5 monster arrived, unleashing its devastating power that laid waste to everything in its vicinity. Not only did it cause widespread destruction, but it also proved to be a formidable opponent, defeating Zhu Jilan, Kong Lin, Li Su, and Yang Yung, leaving them all on the brink of death. The monster resembled a gamecock, and its attention shifted toward Kim Soo and Hyeon Wook, the only ones still standing. Without hesitation, it launched an attack on them. Meanwhile, Sun Mai, recognizing her role as a healer rather than a fighter, remained hidden nearby. Kim Soo and Hyeon Wook managed to narrowly evade the monster's assault. In its relentless rampage, the monster even destroyed the building it had been perched on, intensifying the danger that Kim Soo and Hyeon Wook found themselves in. From a distance, Oh Si-bum observed their intense battle and struggle. He commented on the remarkable resilience of Kim Soo and Hyeon Wook, saying, "Gamecock is amazing. Those guys are holding up better than I thought. But it's only a matter of time before they get wiped out." He then pondered aloud, "I wonder what Tae Hoon's expression will be when he returns." It became evident that Oh Si-bum was the one responsible for luring the monster to them, as he watched their predicament with a sinister laugh. The monster closed in on Hyeon Wook and Kim Soo. Hyeon Wook swiftly dashed toward the monster, informing Kim Soo that according to the plan, he would go first. As he charged, he recalled Tae Hoon's instructions to them. "If you want to battle the middle level of level 2 or a level 3 monster while I'm away, you both should fight together, as you have the most combat skills and abilities in the unit." Tae Hoon had elaborated on their roles in the plan, explaining that Kim Soo would infuse energy into the bullets and snipe from a distance, While Tae Hoon would engage in close combat with the monsters, Tae Hoon had emphasized the importance of coordination, mentioning that if they worked well together, they could even defeat a level 3 monster. However, if the level was too high, they should order the rest of the team to evacuate. As Tae Hoon closed the distance between himself and the monster, he commented, "Tae Nim, you have saved me countless times, and I totally trust you. But the circumstances now don't allow me to retreat. There are people whom I need to protect." With determination, Tae Hoon raised his weapon, ready to confront the oncoming monster. The scene then shifts to Yang Young, who was on the brink of death. He called out to Lee Soo, asking if she was still alive, but Lee Soo remained unconscious. Yang Young, with a touch of humor, remarked, "Cool, I can't believe we're fighting a monster like that. If I were a detective, my judgment would be really bad. I guess we won't be eating chicken for dinner today." Just then, Sun Mai arrived and asked him what he was mumbling about. She urged him to take a healing pill she had created to mend his wounds. Yang Young, concerned for the others, told her to save them first. Sun Mai reassured him, saying she had plenty of medicine, and informed him that they would focus on rescuing the injured who could move. Kim Soo infused her energy into the bullets and began shooting, diverting the monster's attention toward her. Meanwhile, Tae Hoon managed to land a powerful blow to the monster's head, causing it to topple to the ground. At the same time, Sun Mai and Yang Young were tending to the other injured clan members. Tae Hoon struggled to hold the monster down for a few seconds before Kim Soo shouted at him to get away. But it was too late. The monster launched an attack, sending him flying. Without delay, the monster hurled a car at Kim Soo. As the car approached her, it suddenly exploded, saving her life. In front of her stood Tae Hoon, who had come to her rescue. Although Tae Hoon had taken massive damage, his defense allowed him to move. With Tae Hoon's arrival, shock rippled through everyone. Tae Hoon commended their efforts, saying they had done a good job. He instructed them to gather all the injured and evacuate, leaving the monster to him. The monster's attention shifted to Tae Hoon. Tae Hoon quickly instructed his team to do more than just stand there and urged them to make a hasty exit. He dashed towards the menacing creature and called upon the spirit dwelling within an earthenware artifact. Kate, on the other hand, employed an incense burner to summon 3 creatures for Tae Hoon's aid. The rest of the team was left bewildered, unsure of what was unfolding before their eyes. Kate explained that the incense burner was a national treasure, the same one mentioned earlier, just before she departed. She suggested that any questions about how she acquired it should be directed to Tae Hoon later. While utilizing the artifact, Kate began to reminisce about receiving it from Tae Hoon. He had entrusted it to her, acknowledging that her energy surpassed his. Tae Hoon assured her that if she followed his guidance, she could harness its power more effectively. The monster found itself in a tough spot as it faced the combined assault from all 3 creatures and Tae Hoon, along with the spirit. Bum was taken aback by Tae Hoon's quick return, and Tae Hoon remarked, "I feel like I'm in a monster movie." Kate then instructed Tae Hoon to use the Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva artifact from her bag since she couldn't wield 2 relics simultaneously. Tae Hoon took the artifact and was told that by infusing it with energy, they would be a bit safer. Tae Hoon continued to engage in a fierce battle with the monster, aided by the spirit and the 3 creatures. Suddenly, the monster launched its deadly feathers at them. Just in the nick of time, Tae Hoon activated the Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, creating a protective barrier that shielded them from the feather attack. While Tae Hoon defended himself by slashing at every feather that came his way, the monster underwent a dramatic transformation, shifting its color from dark blue to dark orange. The monster's power was so immense that it posed a threat to the nearby buildings. Unfortunately, the spirit within the earthenware artifact and the creatures summoned by the incense burner had both vanished as their time limits expired. Tae Hoon found himself facing the level 5 monster alone. With determination, Tae Hoon removed his defensive equipment, his expression growing serious. He admitted, "I underestimated it. I thought a level 5 monster would be too easy." Taking control of the Gandalf Sword's artifacts he had found earlier using his telekinetic ability, he remarked, "Since both sides have nothing to lose, let's fight to the death." As the monster launched its deadly feather spikes, Tae Hoon hurled the Gandalf swords at it, successfully countering the feather attack. Then, he leaped towards the monster's head. In response, the monster unleashed a devastating force from its mouth. Tae Hoon managed to evade the attack by moving with incredible speed, landing safely on the ground. However, the relentless monster wasted no time and launched another assault. Tae Hoon skillfully dodged all of its attacks and couldn't help but remark, "What a tremendous destructive force. I'd be done for if I took a hit head-on." Tae Hoon recognized that his only chance to defeat the monster was to land a fatal blow. As he skillfully dodged its attacks, the monster lunged at him, but Tae Hoon managed to evade the strike. The creature launched a rapid series of attacks, forcing Tae Hoon to dash backward. Suddenly, it unleashed its feather spikes, but Tae Hoon swiftly sliced them with his swords. In midair, the monster struck him, driving him to the ground. Tae Hoon struggled to hold off the relentless attack, using his sword as a shield. Concerned for Tae Hoon, his team members, including Kim Soo, wanted to intervene, but he ordered them to stay back. Despite his injuries, Tae Hoon managed to stand his ground while defending against the monster's onslaught. He told his team that they would only hinder him and should stay away. With each passing moment, Tae Hoon's strength waned, and he needed to find a way to defeat the monster quickly. The creature launched another devastating attack from its mouth, but Tae Hoon leaped into the air to avoid it. Yang Young, observing the battle, commented that it was a struggle beyond human capabilities. In the midst of the chaos, Tae Hoon heard the monster's heartbeat, thanks to his rattle-tailed mouse's hearing skill. Just as the monster attacked him again, Tae Hoon once more evaded the assault. The monster began channeling its destructive force, but Tae Hoon dashed towards it, using his telekinesis to thwart the monster's attack. With determination, he focused both hands on his sword, ready to strike the monster's heart. With a precise and powerful stab, Tae Hoon pierced the monster's heart, causing it to roar in agony. The team was awestruck by Tae Hoon's tactical brilliance. However, the monster desperately grabbed Tae Hoon with its leg in a final attempt to prevent its own demise. With the last of his strength, Tae Hoon used his telekinesis ability to force the sword deeper into the monster's heart, ultimately securing victory against the level 5 monster. The surroundings lay in a state of utter devastation. Tae Hoon stood amidst the wreckage, his foot resting on the lifeless monster's corpse. The team was filled with excitement and relief as they realized that the ordeal was finally over. Lee Soo, Zhu Jilan, and Kong Lin had regained consciousness, and they were astonished to learn that the monster had been defeated. O.C. Bum, on the other hand, was in a state of disbelief, watching in awe as the monster's reign of terror came to an end. Tae Hoon took hold of his sword one last time and delivered a decisive blow to the monster, extracting its magical orb. Without hesitation, he consumed the orb, absorbing its power. With the battle won and the monster vanquished, O.C. Bum left the scene to report the news to his fellow members of the Six Snakes. Later on, in Bucheon City, Tae Hoon sat down for a meeting with Colonel Ud. The colonel acknowledged the hardships Tae Hoon had endured, recognizing that without him or if he had been killed, their enemies would have seized Bucheon City and destroyed the Mac Guild. Tae Hoon urged Ud to get to the point and asked why he had come. Ud explained that Colonel Lim Hyun-jun had agreed to meet with Tae Hoon, but emphasized that Tae Hoon shouldn't bring too many people along. Tae Hoon replied, "I think I should postpone the meeting with Colonel Lim. I want to confront the leaders of the Capital Defense Command first. They are responsible for what happened to my team, and I want to settle that score." He had a strong desire to seek retribution. Yudi assured him, "I'll make the arrangements and set a date for your meeting with the leaders." However, he also cautioned Tae Hoon about the potential risks, warning him that he needed a bargaining chip at the table since they might not let him leave if negotiations went south. Tae Hoon responded with determination, saying, "I'm not planning to leave either way. I'm just setting up a negotiating table to ensure they pay the price for the blood that was shed." Following the chaos, the Mac Guild began the process of recovery. Sung Hoon took a moment to reflect on the grim situation. So many lives lost, and someone would have to be held accountable for it. The focus now shifted to tending to and aiding the wounded. Fortunately, even though they were short-staffed, they wouldn't need to worry about monster attacks for a while, thanks to Hyun Nim, who had eliminated countless monsters during their recent battles. Sung Hoon couldn't help but feel a sense of pride about the experiences he had gained at his relatively young age. However, these thoughts came before the existence of the monsters. Now, he couldn't help but wonder if he could have survived this ordeal alone. Nonetheless, he acknowledged that there were exceptions to every rule. Tae Hoon gathered his team in the workshop, where they were met by Park Gapsu, the person in charge of the workshop. He began by explaining that the weapons and armor they were about to receive were crafted from the bones and teeth of an orc, known as the Vulture King's sword and armor. He mentioned that he had the ability to create them, but the delay was due to Tae Hoon's absence, as he needed Tae Hoon's input. This time, he had followed Tae Hoon's instructions to modify the weapons to make them as effective as possible. Tae Hoon's instructions followed. Kate would use the bronze incense burner of Beaked to enhance the team's defense. Sun Mai would utilize the Avalokite's Bodhisattva statue to heal the wounded members. Everyone else received their upgraded weapons. Lastly, Park Gapsu had also managed to strengthen the Imperator sword that Tae Hoon wielded. The day had arrived for Tae Hoon to meet with the leaders of the capital defense in Seoul. Tae Hoon, accompanied by Sung Hoon and Ud, made their way through the devastated city. The once thriving metropolis lay in ruins, with buildings reduced to rubble. Sung Hoon couldn't help but remark, "This place is like hell." Ud explained that Seoul's destruction had been exacerbated by the dragon. Despite their best efforts, they hadn't managed to harm the dragon in the slightest. It felt like trying to take on a human when you're just an ant. Their journey was interrupted when their car came to a halt. A capital defense soldier informed UD that they were engaged in a battle with red-ranked monsters. While they didn't know the exact number, there were certainly a lot of them. Red-ranked monsters were the lowest level, and Tae Hoon couldn't help but comment, "There are still monsters roaming around the garrison, the largest defense line in Seoul. You guys are pathetic." As tensions rose, furry lizards attacked the soldiers. Just as the monsters launched their assault, a hail of high-speed bullets saved them. It was Tae Hoon who had come to their rescue. He instructed them to stay back and enjoy the show, then proceeded to eliminate all the monsters by combining his telekinesis skill with the bullets. Finally, they reached their destination at Namsan Tower. The word quickly spread that Kim Tae Hoon had arrived. As someone who had been working with the government, all the capital defense leaders were gathered, and a buzz of anticipation filled the air as Tae Hoon entered the scene. As the meeting got underway, Yudi stepped outside to smoke. The atmosphere inside was chilly, and no one dared to utter a word. Sung Hoon privately remarked to himself that despite the cold weather, the tension was so high that he was breaking into a sweat. Lee Hyuk, the commander of the capital defense, finally broke the silence by asking Tae Hoon if he meant they had to pay for the damages. Tae Hoon responded affirmatively, stating that he wanted a fair compensation. He explained that a significant amount of damage had occurred while hunting the blue-grade monster, the Gamecock, and many lives had been lost in the process. Lee Hyuk continued, acknowledging the grim situation but emphasizing that receiving payment wouldn't be straightforward. He also questioned Tae Hoon's audacity in using military artifacts. Tae Hoon defended their use, stating that they had employed those weapons to save the citizens from the monsters, which ultimately ensured the survival of everyone in Seoul. In response, Lee Hyuk warned Tae Hoon not to make threats and insinuated that he could label the Mac Guild as an anti-government organization that loots weapons from the military. Unperturbed, Tae Hoon replied that he was fine with that outcome if it meant receiving compensation for saving lives, the price of their blood. Kai-soo, the head of the investigation department of the Ministry of Defense, intervened by reprimanding Tae Hoon for his words. The capital defense soldiers reacted by raising their weapons against Tae Hoon and Sung Hoon, effectively surrounding them. Meanwhile, the captain of the Outer Security D group reached out to an Inner Security Team B member, inquiring about Tae Hoon's whereabouts. The Inner Security Team responded that Tae Hoon was inside, engaging with the higher-ups. The captain of the Outer Security then issued a warning, expressing uncertainty if it was already too late. He advised all internal security members to avoid confrontations, especially with Kim Tae Hoon. He emphasized this point because Tae Hoon had demonstrated the ability to defeat more than 50 red and orange ranked monsters simultaneously within seconds. Inside the meeting, soldiers were ordering Sung Hoon to kneel, and one soldier behind Tae Hoon questioned whether Tae Hoon could truly defeat a blue ranked monster on his own. In response, Tae Hoon quipped, "Sometimes I wish I were an octopus so I could slap you 8 times. I asked for payment, I never asked you to pass judgment." Suddenly, the ground began to shake as Tae Hoon's energy surged, causing an earthquake. A soldier checked his phone to view Tae Hoon's stats and discovered that Tae Hoon's special abilities far surpassed their awakeners. Furthermore, Tae Hoon had gained a new skill by consuming the Gamecock's magical orb, called Anger Soaring, with a level of 3. This skill had a unique effect, consuming all of one's energy and triggering a massive explosion in the vicinity. Witnessing this display of power, Lee Hyuk accepted Tae Hoon's proposal. Kai-soo attempted to intervene, but Lee Hyuk halted him. Lee Hyuk then presented a condition to Tae Hoon. He requested Tae Hoon's assistance in eliminating the green-grade monster on the side of Chungai Mountain, leading the goblins. Tae Hoon agreed, but added his own terms. He would receive 3 national treasures as compensation for the bloodshed, and 1 national treasure for each green-grade monster slain. Afterward, Kai-soo approached the lieutenant general to question why he had agreed to Tae Hoon's proposal. With a frustrated expression, the lieutenant general turned toward Kai-soo and bluntly called him an idiot. He emphasized that even if they wanted to kill Tae Hoon and somehow managed to do so, they would incur significant damage in the process. Additionally, they couldn't ignore the possibility that Colonel Lim Hyun-jun in Gangwon Province might turn against them. If both Tae Hoon and Lim Hyun-jun became enemies, the Capital Defense Command could be besieged, which was a situation he wanted to avoid. Outside, Tae Hoon and Sung Hoon met with O.C. Bum. O.C. Bum reintroduced himself and informed them that the relics they were seeking was in the bank. He offered to take them to the Bank of Korea. Then, he extended his hand to Tae Hoon, expressing his pleasure at seeing him again like this and regretting not getting a chance to say goodbye earlier. Tae Hoon replied not once but twice, saying, "I won't forget what you did in Bucheon." O.C. Bum was surprised that Tae Hoon had noticed him even during his battle with the Gamecock. Tae Hoon added that the distance from their current location to the Bank of Korea was approximately 2.2 kilometers, and it would take about half an hour to walk there. He instructed O.C. Bum to ensure they arrived at the designated meeting place in half an hour, ideally at the second or third meeting point. Half an hour passed, and they arrived at the Bank of Korea. Sung Hoon headed inside to retrieve the artifacts, assuring Tae Hoon that he would select something valuable. As Sung Hoon went on his errand, O.C. Bum approached Tae Hoon, explaining that he had only been following orders and asked what Tae Hoon wanted from him. Tae Hoon inquired about the method used to lure the blue-grade monster to their city. O.C. Bum revealed that it had been accomplished using the Jade Dragon pattern Rite artifact. Its level was 2, and it held significant rarity. Its special effect allowed the injection of mana to produce the water of Jade Dragon. Drinking it granted strong resistance to fear and endless stamina, but it came with side effects. O.C. Bum further explained that when consumed, the artifact emitted an aura that attracted high-level monsters. They had given it to an awakener and strategically placed them from Sejong City to Bucheon City, effectively creating a path for the Gamecock to follow. He likened it to the story of Hansel and Gretel, where instead of a breadcrumb, they had used the Riten to lead the Gamecock naturally toward Bucheon City while chasing the Awakeners. O.C. Bum asked Tae Hoon if this explanation was satisfactory. Tae Hoon contemplated the Gamecock's path from Sejong City to Bucheon City and responded, "Probably." Just as the conversation was ongoing, Sung Hoon returned, letting Tae Hoon know that he had brought all the powerful relics. Horse figure type earthenware servant statue. This artifact was at level 2 and held special value. Its primary effect was similar to the earthenware artifact. It could summon the spirit within it by injecting mana. Couple burial mound gold earrings. These earrings were also level 2 with special value. Their effect was to cleanse the mind of the wearer and enhance concentration. And Hahodal artifact. This artifact, at level 2 and with rare value, had a unique effect. When you wore the mask, you would become possessed by a spirit, significantly boosting all your capabilities. However, as soon as the possession ended, you would temporarily lose all your strength. Following their discussion about the relics, Tae Hoon and Sung Hoon embarked on their journey to confront the green-grade monster and fulfill Lee Hyuk's task. Along the way, Sung Hoon shared an interesting insight, explaining that the quality and quantity of relics were linked to a country's history. China, being one of the world's most famous relic grounds, had a rich history that contributed to its abundance of relics. However, due to certain changes, many relics had moved from China to Taiwan, leaving only around 600,000 pieces behind. Hearing this, Tae Hoon speculated that the headquarters of the Six Snakes might be in Taiwan, given their pursuit of supremacy. Sung Hoon was taken aback and warned Tae Hoon that they couldn't travel to Taiwan by airplane, making their mission even more complicated. He inquired if Tae Hoon was certain about the Six Snakes headquarters being in Taiwan. Tae Hoon confirmed his belief, explaining that if the Six Snakes aimed to establish contact with Taiwan, there was no better control tower than the current situation. However, he emphasized that, for now, the Capital Defense Command presented a more pressing issue. Curious about the task given to him by the Capital Defense Command, Sung Hoon questioned why they would ask Tae Hoon to kill a monster, even if it was a green-grade monster, when they had the power to handle it themselves. Tae Hoon revealed their true intention. They wanted to assess his capabilities, to determine if they could utilize him effectively. He likened it to a game where the outcome depended on whether a hunting dog could defeat a wild boar or a tiger. Tae Hoon's plan was to let them believe he was cooperating, only for them to realize later that they were the ones who would lose in the end. In light of this, Tae Hoon instructed Sung Hoon to return and gather the combatants while he faced the level 4 monster alone. He concluded by saying, "Since they want to see what I can do, I'll definitely show them." Tae Hoon reached Mount Chingai, where the green-grade monster lurked. He ventured deeper into a dense, dark forest and fought and defeated all the monsters that crossed his path until he encountered the formidable green-grade monster. This monster was no ordinary foe. It had 3 menacing heads. As soon as it sensed Tae Hoon's presence, it lunged at him, ready for a battle. Close to Tae Hoon, UD and his unit had been quietly observing the fight from behind him. One of the soldiers couldn't help but comment, "I expected Tae Hoon to be strong since he managed to defeat a blue-grade monster, but this is on another level. It's like watching a one-sided massacre." UD, the leader, then informed his unit that it was time to end the encounter. In a matter of moments, Tae Hoon displayed his incredible skills by swiftly cutting off all 3 heads of the monstrous creature. With the creature defeated, Tae Hoon consumed a magical orb known as a Chimera's Crystal, which the monster had possessed. Almost immediately, he felt a surge of power coursing through him, as his telekinesis skills rank was elevated to a plus. Meanwhile, not far from the battle scene, 2 military soldiers closely observed Tae Hoon's extraordinary prowess. One of them couldn't help but remark, "He's incredibly powerful. I wonder how many of those crystals they need to eat to reach his level." The soldier who made this observation was On Ju Hyung, a member of the 8th Mechanized Infantry Division. His companion, On Yi Hyung, was also part of the same division. On Ju turned to On Yi and asked for his opinion on what they should do next. Should they deliver the letter to Tae Hoon, or should they return to their unit? However, before On Yi could respond, they were taken by surprise as Tae Hoon suddenly appeared behind them. Tae Hoon calmly informed them that he was aware of their mission, sent by Colonel Lim Hyun-jun, and ordered them to hand over the letter. As Tae Hoon began to read the message, On Yi conveyed that the colonel was expecting an immediate response. Tae Hoon, with his newfound confidence and power, had a straightforward message for them to relay back to the colonel. He said, "Tell the colonel that if he wishes to avoid a dire fate, he should come and meet me in person." Meanwhile, at Namsan Tower, O.C. Bum, Kai-su, and Jang So, who was the head of the military police, gathered for a discussion. Kai-su was visibly angry about Tae Hoon's Mac Guild taking control of the Chongqing region. Their motive was to secure access to the valuable oil reserves in Seosin and Pyeongtaek. Frowning, Kai-su inquired with one of the soldiers present if the information was reliable. The soldier responded with unwavering confidence, confirming the accuracy of the information. He had seen the unmistakable flag of the Mac Guild flying proudly in that region. O.C. Bum and Jang So shared Kai-su's frustration, as they were also deeply concerned about this development. The scene shifted to the headquarters of the Mac Guild, where Sung Hoon stood before a map. He marked a circle on it to indicate their possession of the particular area. Turning to the soldiers gathered around him, Sung Hoon began to explain their recent achievements. He mentioned, "We have successfully secured Songdong Base and the Seosin oil stockpile base. This means we won't have to worry about our energy needs for the foreseeable future." He continued, "Furthermore, we've also secured plenty of farmland, guaranteeing a stable food supply." We won't have to worry about rice for a while either. Sang Hoon then addressed another pressing matter, saying, I've dispatched our people to deal with the remnants of the Messiah survivors in Chungcheong province. Just as he was speaking, a soldier rushed in to inform him that the golden glass of Napoleon was filled with red liquid. Sang Hoon sighed and commented, alas, whenever this happens, it tends to come out and spoil the fun. Later on, Tae Hoon took a sip from the golden cup, which allowed him to catch a glimpse of the future. In this vision, he saw Sang Hoon informing him with confidence that they would undoubtedly secure the Mayan calendar. Following them, a pharaoh and his followers appeared on the scene. Moreover, Tae Hoon received the prestigious title of Dragon Slayer, and something quite extraordinary happened to his skin. While Tae Hoon was engaged in a battle with the pharaoh's followers, one of them made a rather ominous comment. They remarked that even though he bore the title of a dragon slayer, he had been cursed by the dragon, suggesting that his fate was sealed, and it was only a matter of time until he met his end. Tae Hoon abruptly woke up from this dream, shaking his head in disbelief. He couldn't help but comment, this dream is getting more and more outrageous. Tae Hoon gathered the non-combatants to brief them about what lay ahead. Meanwhile, the combatants were dispatched by Sang Hoon to confront the remaining Messiah followers. Sang Hoon was taken aback when he learned about the presence of a pharaoh and a mummy in the battle. Sun Mai clarified that the battleground was none other than Stonehenge in England, and the Mayan calendar had been seized by a group of awakeners led by a pharaoh named Amun. Despite Tae Hoon's victory over the dragon, a curse still loomed over him, and this curse would ultimately lead to his demise. She went on to explain, the fact that we're here in England is a clear indication that we've been working tirelessly outside of Korea. In other words, if we stay united and resolute, we can make the journey to confront this new challenge. Kate voiced her opinion, suggesting, this seems quite distant from our current location. Perhaps we should focus on stabilizing ourselves first and then formulate plans. Our immediate reality needs our attention. Sang Hoon raised the question of whether Colonel Lim Hyun-jun would visit their leader. Tae Hoon replied firmly, if he values his life, he'll come. Sang Hoon then added with concern, I was worried that it might be too much, and Colonel Lim Hyun-jun might choose to ignore Hyun-nim. Tae Hoon began to address the crucial issue faced by frontline units, including where Colonel Lim Hyun-jun was currently stationed. He explained that achieving self-sufficiency was nearly impossible. It had been 6 months since the appearance of the monsters, and their supplies of food and fuel were running dangerously low. He emphasized, food can freeze in the winter, but it melts in the summer. Preserved food starts to decay over time. So, while winters of war are harsh, summers are equally brutal. Tae Hoon expressed concerns about the possibility of being abandoned by the government. To tackle these challenges, he laid out a plan for his team. He instructed them, our primary objective is to monitor the movements on both sides, clear out nearby monsters and hostile forces, and patiently wait for the right opportunity. Days had passed, and finally, Colonel Lim Hyun-jun arrived at the Mac Guild headquarters to meet Tae Hoon. Tae Hoon welcomed him and his unit, leading them inside to commence their negotiations. Colonel Lim Hyun-jun introduced himself as the commander of the 8th Mechanized Infantry Division. He reiterated the contents of his letter, explaining, I require your assistance in taking down the Capital Defense Command. If you don't want guns pointed at you, I suggest you give us your best support. Tae Hoon, with a hint of amusement, replied, what a joker you are. If you want to challenge me, leave this place and relocate to Pachon. Bring your troops down to Bucheon, and I'll be ready for any battle or anything else you have in mind. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Hyun-jun made a polite request to Tae Hoon for his assistance. He explained that the Capital Defense Command claimed that important figures were still alive. But Hyun-jun couldn't trust their claims because these VIPs hadn't shown themselves in this chaotic world, suggesting they were hiding something. Tae Hoon, uninterested in these details, urged Hyun-jun to make an offer if he wanted his help. He pointed out that the Capital Defense Command usually compensated him with national treasures whenever they engaged in business. Hyun-jun responded, you knew we couldn't provide you with valuable relics, yet you sought me out through Lieutenant Colonel UD. It's clear you had another reason for wanting to meet with me. Tae Hoon smirked and said, finally, you've caught on. Bird brain. Let me make a proposal. Colonel Hyun-jun looked puzzled, so Tae Hoon continued, come under me. This statement caused an uproar among Hyun-jun's unit, and they pointed their weapons at Tae Hoon. Tae Hoon explained calmly, the Capital Defense Command has recognized my authority over Bucheon, Incheon, and other areas controlled by the Mac Guild. It won't be long before someone comes to assassinate you. Hyun-jun replied confidently, I'm prepared for that. Tae Hoon's expression turned serious as he warned, I'm telling you, accepting my offer is the only way to guarantee your survival. It was at this moment that Hyun-jun realized the gravity of the situation. The Capital Defense Command could hire Tae Hoon to assassinate him, leaving him with no way out. Hyun-jun decided to inquire, what do we gain in return for your proposal? Tae Hoon replied simply, I'll spare your life and that of the 8th Mechanized Infantry Division. Meanwhile, at Namsan Tower, Osibum, Kaisu, and Jangso were all smoking. Kaisu informed them that the Lieutenant General would eventually ask Kim Tae Hoon and the Mac Guild to protect the 3 nuclear power plants, Kori, Walseong, and Uljan. Jangso pointed out that it was a natural procedure, as the nuclear power plants were now the only hope. Osibum commented that the only plants capable of satisfying the supply and demand of energy were the hydroelectric power plants and nuclear power plants. Kaisu added that they had been trying to secure the nuclear power plants and had sent special forces many times, but all such attempts had ended in failure. He continued, saying that Dr. Mao didn't want the government to have the nuclear plants either. Jiang So interjected, saying that even so, it didn't benefit them much since they needed energy. Kaisu then told them that if Kim really moved to secure the nuclear power plants, it could disrupt Mr. Mao's entire plan for South Korea's nuclear weapons development. Therefore, they needed to stop him. Osibum chimed in, expressing doubt. Stop that monster. It won't be easy. He suggested that he would call Mr. Mao first. At the Mac Guild, Colonel Yudi was there to present a proposal to Tae Hoon. He explained that every time Tae Hoon secured a single nuclear power plant, the Capital Defense Command would reward him with 10 relics, including 5 national treasures. They would also acknowledge ownership of all the relics acquired in the process. Sung Hoon raised a question, asking if they could take the Manpasikyak artifact from the tomb of King Munmu of Silla or the Jumchuk artifact from Najo. He then inquired about the situation in the Sobik Mountains, as they would need to cross through them. Yudi replied that, according to the Diding map artifact, there were 2 blue-grade monsters and a large number of green-grade monsters in the area. Kim Soo quietly commented to herself that the information seemed accurate, at least indicating that they had no hostility toward their boss. Tae Hoon then decided to refuse the request, explaining that it was too dangerous. He mentioned that they would need to use all the power of the Mac Guild to form a route through the Sobik Mountains, and he didn't want to put his people at risk while dealing with an enemy. He added, now that I know where the enemy's headquarters are, I don't need to waste any more time. Yudi interjected, saying, for now, it's impossible. The traitors in the Capital Defense Command are not few, and Lieutenant General Lee Hayek is probably just the tip of the iceberg. Tae Hoon responded confidently, if I can't handle parasites, I can take them along with their hosts. Yudi then explained, with your strength, you can certainly carry out an assassination of a VIP, but it's not enough. You need an army to handle civilians, soldiers, and awakeners. He added, there is one place with that kind of military power, the 8th Mechanized Infantry Division. You must persuade Colonel Lim Hyun-jun to join your side. Tae Hoon dropped a surprising revelation, saying, Colonel Lim Hyun-jun is a member of the Mac Guild. This unexpected news left Yudi shocked and speechless. Tae Hoon continued, Lim Hyun-jun and the 8th Mechanized Infantry Division joined the Mac Guild 13 minutes ago.